Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and it is my birthday, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1088 of the War News stream. And also, I'm laughing, by the way, because I said A, and it didn't even come through, so, boo-hoo for me. But anyways, we have very big news today. In addition to it being the Enforcer's birthday, the Russians are taking huge losses once again on the Kursk front lines, and also in Pokrovsk. Also, we're getting word that Europe may form a new NATO alliance, and also Iran's launching a sudden military deployment in one part of their country. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we are going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as I, the Enforcer, have officially turned 23 today on February 15th of 2025. I have been running this channel ever since I turned 20 years old, and now celebrating my 23rd birthday, we are once again back on air with all of y'all. Pretty much channel tradition that we're always on air during my birthday and Matthew's birthday to be able to continue to cover the news to y'all on such a major and momentous day today. And I have to thank everyone so much for all of the happy birthday wishes that are coming through in the chat right now. But speaking of a happy day, there has been happy days out there for the Ukrainians and also others around the world today, as we have been able to hear that the Russian Federation has been taking significant losses inside the Perokrovsk front, and not only that, the Ukrainian offensive appears to be nearly shattering the Russian lines, as multiple reports from Russian units and military bloggers are beginning to paint a situation on the front line that appears to be perilous for the Russian Federation, as it seems as though they are now being pushed back in incredibly heavy form, and it also appears that even rear line reserve units are having an incredibly difficult time with dealing with the strain that the Ukrainian counterattack is currently facing on their front lines. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear in the Kursk Oblast that the Ukrainian armed forces have continued to inflict incredibly high damage onto the Russian Federation's armed forces within this area, although we have not been able to get any additional news or information about a heavy Ukrainian advance in any direction at this point. It does appear that the losses are still significant, and the Russian Federation is still being put at bay inside the Kursk Oblast, as a very suspicious instance has occurred where a commander of one of the units involved involved in the defense of Kursk on the Russian side died under mysterious circumstances, supposedly being mined on one of the roads, although no one else has been mined on that very road, leading the Russian Federation to open up an investigation into a possible murder of the commander of that unit. Meanwhile, outside of Ukraine, we have been able to hear in Iran, near to the city of Chanbahar, that there is a significant Iranian military buildup happening within this area, and video and picture evidence confirms this sort of an action. It does appear that this is not only incredibly concerning, but coincidental, considering the collapsing diplomatic situation in between the state of Israel and Iran once more, and not only that, it is building up near to the area of the Strait of Hormuz, directly in between Iran and the most northern tip of the United Arab Emirates and Oman, which once again could seriously begin to threaten international trade and international supply of oil resources. We have also been able to hear some other significant news from around the world today, as the French are leading a military exercise along with the United States inside the Philippine Sea, joined by the Japanese Navy, as they are once again beginning to conduct a show of force in the war game against the People's Republic of China and their attempts to further expand outside of the area of the Chinese coastal waters near to the East China Sea, the Yellow Sea, and the South China Sea. We have also been able to hear a little bit more in developments outside of Europe today, as we've been able to hear that Rheinmetall has now gotten up to an unbelievable ammunition production of 750,000 artillery shells per year. Nearly a World War I level of production at this point for the singular company of Rheinmetall. Truly, their back is breaking because they're carrying the weight of munitions productions across the entirety of Europe at this point. This also comes as information has come out that it appears that the United States has not invited Ukraine to the Saudi Arabia diplomatic conference that'll be happening with the Russian Federation here within a week. Even if it does happen, we're still not really sure if it is happening at this point. It appears that the Ukrainians and Europe has not been invited to that, and in the meantime, we are now beginning to hear murmurings from the French President Emmanuel Macron that they are going to be conducting an emergency meeting of European states to see about possibly creating a defensive alliance that will exist outside of NATO. But nevertheless, we have a massive amount of news to cover today. And a huge thanks to everyone once again. I want to make sure that I let all of y'all know that we are seeing it. A massive thanks to everyone for all of the huge birthday wishes that y'all been throwing in so far. It's really nice to see. And of course, we'll be getting to that here a little bit in the future. But we want to make sure to get into all of the news for each and every one of y'all right here, right now, because while it's my birthday, the world is still turning and we have a lot to cover. So moving on into the major news of the day, we have been able to hear that within the Pokrovsk area, the situation on the Russian front lines is incredibly difficult. It's not only difficult, it appears to be practically impossible at this point, as the Russian Federation is seeing that their front lines are beginning to rapidly collapse in this area, and the Russian defending frontline units around this direction appear to be buckling under the strength of the Ukrainian counteroffensive that is currently being conducted at this time. We were able to hear this from several Russian military blogger statements today. This is the English translation that we'll be reading for all of y'all here about the Pokrovsk situation, but here is the original statement made by the Russians near to the front lines about the current situation at their area of the front near to Pokrovsk. And so reading all the English translated version of it, it states information from the ground on the situation in the southern section of the Pokrovsky direction, or as we would call it, the Battle of Pokrovsk. We have no strength. We don't know what else to do. The sky is completely behind the Ukrainians, meaning that the Ukrainians have achieved air superiority in the area with drone forces. You can't go more than 3 kilometers from Seladovo. Nevertheless, otherwise, the Ukrainians burn everything to hell. There are a lot of comedians on the optics. Like us. All the dirt roads are monitored 24/7. It is simply impossible to carry out rotation. We walk 18 kilometers due to a lack of supply trucks and vehicles. The issue of water, food, and gasoline is acute. I'm not talking about heating. Those guys are naturally freezing in their positions. Nothing can be brought in at all. From the comedians, guys like us, that are not on optics, the Ukrainians felt a window where we have no electronic warfare, meaning that within the southern direction of Pokrovsk, it appears that they don't have any sort of electronic warfare jamming systems. The frequencies are from 1020 to 2100 and actively works on them. The other day, 2 of our great fighters died. They stupidly did not reach the position. Comedian.
Man, what the hell? They said two of their great fighters, and they called them stupid comedians. That's a little bit of a juxtaposition, I would say.
Dude, they were like, dumbass couldn't run fast enough. Like, it's like, what?
It's like, no, it's more like you couldn't protect them on the way there, more like it.
Dude, they were like, two of our greatest fighters, like Jan Žižka, passed away today. Dumbass couldn't even run fast enough. It's like, what? It's like you're roasting him. It's like you're roasting him for not outrunning like a drone that can go 50 miles an hour. It's like what are they? What do you expect them to be? Usain Bolt? They're practically conscripts at this point. But nevertheless, they don't let you cut the roof of the loaves. It's like it's property on the balance sheet. Man, we know about that. But you ride in a loaf like a coffin. And by the way, the loaf is the UAZ 469, which is the Buhanka. Let me go get the Buhanka for all of y'all. Because apparently what's interesting, actually it's not a 469, it's a 452. But apparently what's interesting is that in this area, Russian commanders are actually not allowing post-shop modifications to the Buhanka, so the Buhankas are being driven in with the roof attached. They're not allowing them to remove the roof, so that way they can look into the skies above them and try and intercept the drones before they hit. Apparently, they don't allow that, so the Buhankas are pretty much coffins like this Russian is describing, and they're pretty much just driving into the front and getting obliterated because they can't even see the drones that are coming for them. But nevertheless, you don't see or hear anything. Personal transport is prohibited. I don't know what's up with the Russian commanders in this area. It seems like they're actually working against their troops. They're like, no Rodniks, period. And so everyone just rides in a Buhanka in its original factory configuration to the front without any sort of protection beyond that. Everything is working in Novotroysk and the immediate area, from the barrel in MLS to who knows what kind of missiles, the sound of which we have never heard before. In short, it's effed up. Nobody understands how to work in such an environment. The Ukrainians are effing us real hard. And if the fabs don't start working, it's as dense as under Avdos. We won't get any further. So largely it appears...
Avdos?
I have no clue what Avdos is. I just read that and I was like, well, hopefully it's nothing bad. But nevertheless, the Russians are having an incredibly bad time. Apparently, everything beyond Selidove, which is pretty much most of the front that they have extended at this point, is entirely unusable and untenable. And not only that, everything beyond Selidove, really Selidove itself, actually cannot be reached by vehicle. It appears that for 18 straight kilometers, according to this Russian post, everyone is traveling on foot. Now, this greatly decreases the Russians' ability to actually conduct reinforcements for precarious areas of the front. So based off of the current logistical situation of reinforcements of troops and also supplies, we can largely assume that the Ukrainians most likely have the attackers' advantage at this point and will be able to drive the Russians back simply because they're not close enough to a logistics hub or a railhead, if you want to call it that, to be able to be supplied and continue to operate efficiently in the defense around the area of Petrivka, and also some other towns that are south of Pokrovsk. It appears that the Ukrainians are in an incredibly good position in this area, but if you didn't believe it from this one Russian Telegram post, we actually do have a second one. And we were able to see this right here. And this one's actually fairly close to the original that we saw just a moment ago, but it is a little bit different in some ways. For example, there is an additional statement that they say that the skies are under complete Ukrainian control, and that they also state that they have no reinforcements left or really any available reserve forces in Pokrovsk to continue to carry on the fight. That's really the only additional add-on that I saw in this area. But also, apparently, another clarification here by this Telegram post is that if they don't start using glide bombs here as dense as they did in Avdiivka, they're not going to be moving forward. And for those of y'all who may want to know a little bit of the battlefield lore, specifically around this area in Donetsk, the Battle of Avdiivka was the first and only time in the entirety of the war that we actually got to see Russian air power leveraged appropriately, at least compared to what we originally expected at the beginning of the war, because the Russian Federation has hardly ever used their air power in an air-to-ground capacity at all during the conflict, because air defense has been thick enough on both sides that you really cannot use it. And also, both sides do not really have an anti-radiation capability for their aircraft to be able to target and destroy those radar systems effectively, or at least conduct seed missions to allow for limited damage to be inflicted in an air-to-ground situation. For that reason, the Russian Air Force and the Ukrainian Air Force rarely has ever been able to conduct air-to-ground operations. But near to the Battle of Avdiivka, something started to happen. We don't really know if the Ukrainian air defense was wiped out or if the Ukrainian air defense had been moved elsewhere, but it appears that the Russians, for the first time ever, started to use a large amount of FAB glide bomb kits around Avdiivka, and they were able to use these to advance up into the area of Ochrytine, and then further on through Stepove and Berdichi, and then to Novoselivka, Persia, threatening the Ukrainian rear lines outside of Avdiivka and forcing a general retreat by the Ukrainians out of the town, and then falling back towards Seladove and also towards the town of Pokrovsk. At this moment, we largely understand the Ukrainians still hold Pokrovsk, although they did lose Seladove about 2 months ago, and the fighting has slowly moved on from Seladove and towards Pokrovsk ever since, but at a snail's pace. Why in the world did I turn into Mike Tyson right there?
They're moving at a snail's pace.
It was at a snail's pace, and they got punched in the mouth. But nevertheless, it does appear that the advance has been at a snail's pace since then, and the Russian Federation has been desperately trying to ensure that somehow their army is able to have some momentum to move forward. But everything that's coming out of the Russian front today about the current situation in Pokrovsk is showing that the momentum has not only stopped, but it appears to have completely collapsed, unless if there's some sort of a usage of a miracle weapon at this point, like, for example, a glide bomb, or a large amount of glide bombs being used by the Russian Air Force. There really is no way to keep up the current momentum of Russian forces that we were seeing even at the slower points of the battle, because it now appears that they're going to be pushed entirely back and back towards Seladove, and the Ukrainians may try and reaffirm a defensive line in Petrivka, Krasnyar, and Hrodivka to stop further Russian advances if they were most likely able to achieve their counteroffensive objectives at this point. Largely, the Ukrainians are not looking to push all the way back towards Avdiivka. That would be simply too large of a goal, most likely at this point, for Ukrainian field commanders. What they are most likely looking for is to just simply reaffirm or strengthen and fortify a defensive line around Perokrovsk again that gives a decent barrier in between Pokrovsk and the active front line. Perokrovsk, by the way, just to point this out, is a much more significant kind of a city than others have been so far in the war. Bakhmut was slightly significant because it was the major crossroads within that area, if you could call it that, but it wasn't extremely significant like Pokrovsk is. Pokrovsk is literally the crossroads of the entirety of the southern Donbass. Practically every single motorway and highway that travels through this area of the Donbass eventually goes through Pokrovsk, meaning that it is a logistical hub for either side that controls it, and if the Russians take it, the Ukrainians are being denied a vital logistics hub that was once in the rear lines that would have been able to supply Ukrainian forces further up in Konstantinivka, Chasiv Yar, and down towards Velika Novosilka and Kurakove. This is why the Battle of Pokrovsk is such an important one for the large part for the Ukrainians, because if they lose Pokrovsk, the Russian ambition of taking the Donbass, at least in the area surrounding Pokrovsk, may be far easier than it's ever been in the past. So this is why we're probably seeing that the Ukrainians are putting in full efforts into this counterattack, and once again trying to push the Russians away from Pokrovsk so that way it doesn't fall into Russian hands and start to jeopardize the larger supply lines that are seen throughout the entirety of this region. But we also have some other pretty big and fairly interesting news in this area as well. We were able to see a very interesting clip from Ukraine War video report about the new way that drone logistics are working. This is something that's incredibly interesting because this is starting to remove the Ukrainians, for the large part, from the issue that's starting to pop up throughout the war, that vehicular transport on the ground is becoming incredibly difficult and unreliable for supply transports because electronic warfare systems are not always foolproof, and not only that, now with the introduction of fiber optic drones heavily on the Russian side, it's making electronic warfare jamming efforts largely pointless as the drones continue to make their way to the Ukrainian vehicles. For this reason, the Ukrainians are having to get a lot more into the innovation of the conflict and trying to figure out ways around this. And they've actually found an incredibly interesting way. Using these foam pads, they create crude boxes, and they begin to form them together into these boxes. You'll see this through the process right here. And they begin to form all of the sides into these crude boxes, which allow them to fill them with supplies. Now, I'm going to continue to let them make this through piece by piece so that way we can really drop the shocker at the end here. That's incredibly cool. But we see them here continuing to talk about the usage of these kinds of drone-dropped boxes here. And we can see them once again continuing to work on creating these boxes. We can see them cutting the styrofoam that the boxes are made out of. It's a very careful, a very gentle process.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't see the wire there for a second. I was about to say, is that guy going to try to cut that with like blunt rebar? But then I saw the wire. I was like, oh, okay.
You see, what we have to do is blunt force, please. Like, it's just blunt force. But we can now see they have a little mold outside to take all of the little sheets with, and they start to form them together into the box. And then once they've formed it into the box, they reinforce it with tape. And this all seems very simple until you see the end, and then it will all come together and make sense. We see them putting the tape across it, making sure that it's a fairly sturdy box that they can load cargo and supplies into. And now that they have the box, we can see they're continuing to work on it just a little bit more. We see them now wrapping the little styrofoam box.
Oh, they got like a bale wrapper thing going on here. That's what they do to like hay bales, like in the South.
Yeah, it's a very crude version of it, but pretty cool, actually.
That's pretty neat.
And we now see that
That's
they've
real
wrapped
sturdy
it.
now. Look at that. That thing is nice and laminated now.
Oh, yeah, man. And now they're loading it with supplies, foodstuffs, things like that. New clothes, anything that a frontline unit needs per the, I guess you could say, purchase order, if you want to call it that, including some chocolates for morale. And we now see them continuing to explain that after they do this, they then pack up the boxes, adding an additional side to it. We can also see here that it appears that they were doing something with the water. I don't know what was up with that. And we now see that one of the boxes is ready. We see them making sure to staple it on down just so that way the lid doesn't pop open by chance, although this thing is heavily wrapped up. We can see them now adding what appears to be some sort of plastic canvas to it to also further strengthen it and fortify it. We see them continuing to explain how their drone unit works. But here soon, we now see them packing up the water as well, showing off other additional supplies. And now what they do is that they take the Baba Yaga and they attach the water and the food items to the bottom in the trash bag right there. It has the water inside of it. The styrofoam box that they had has all of the food supplies inside of it. They attach these to the Baba Yaga's bomb rack. And here, momentarily, the Baba Yaga is soon to take off. And we see them continue to work on more packages. Of course, a decent amount of supply orders coming in from the front lines. And we now see them driving out of there, at least the press crew. And now the Baba Yaga takes off from its launch pad made of two sitting chairs. And it takes off with the cargo box and water container and takes those off to the front lines where it will airdrop it over a frontline position, supplying them with enough food and water for days. And they are able to wash, rinse, and repeat this project as long as they have styrofoam. It is an incredibly efficient way at transporting supplies over incredibly dangerous frontline areas. Some areas of the front line have gotten so dangerous that even at nighttime at this point, it's practically impossible to move vehicles to the front as they will be targeted and destroyed by Russian drones or Russian artillery. So over this point, these drones are able to come in and really cut down on the amount of casualties and monetary losses that the Ukrainian armed forces are taking, and ensures that these frontline units are supplied with munitions, food, water, and any other equipment that they need to be able to remain in their positions without jeopardizing the front line, because they would have to fall back to get to an area that would be safe enough for them to be able to receive supplies. So this is actually far more efficient than the donkey and mule kind of a system that the Russians are setting up, because this not only removes the chance of the supplies being intercepted for the large part, but it also ensures that there are no operators that are going to be put at risk by trying to transport this equipment to the front. An incredibly revolutionary thing, and I believe that Amazon is most likely watching and taking some very heavy notes to try and see if they can implement that on the domestic side of things here in the United States, because there is a lot of potential for that in really every category throughout the entirety of the world for the large part. But nevertheless, We are also hearing some other big news coming out of the area of Kursk. But before we get into that, we do have to talk about something that on the diplomatic level has been a bit of a big issue today, and loads of people have been talking about it. Many people have been able to hear that as far as the peace conferences are going, there has been a European get-together today in the middle of the UNIT conference today on February, well, actually in Europe it's February 16th, but nevertheless, there's going to be a meeting of EU foreign ministers on security issues on the sidelines of the Munich conference, which is a statement from the Greek Foreign Ministry. We have also been able to hear an additional statement from the French President Emmanuel Macron that they are going to be calling an emergency summit of European nations in Paris on Monday over some of the statements made recently by the United States government. This is largely coming on the heels of the Munich conference and some of the handling of the lead up to the conference, and also due to the fact that there are more interesting details coming out right now about what's going on inside of Saudi Arabia. For one, the Ukrainian delegation has stated that they have not been invited at this point to Saudi Arabia. That's, of course, completely dependent on if that's actually happening, and we don't really know if that's actually happening because we've heard statements already that the Russians appear to have never agreed to this. So we're going to have to kind of take that one and really run with it on the seam of our pants. We really don't know if the Saudi Arabia conference is happening or not, but the Ukrainian presidential office confirmed the words of President Zelenskyy that representatives of Ukraine will not be going to Saudi Arabia for negotiations with the United States and Russia. And according to a news statement by Politico, senior officials from the president's administration are headed to Saudi Arabia, not Saudi Arabia. It is reported they will meet negotiators from Ukraine and Russia there, although there has been no official confirmation, and it appears that the Ukrainians are not even really going there. And according to additional information that we got, it doesn't really appear that Europe or Ukraine has been invited to the possible peace conference that may be happening in Saudi Arabia here in the future. As we've heard, there will be no Ukrainian negotiators at the talks in Saudi Arabia, as there's currently nothing on the table worth discussing, according to Polyak, who is a Ukrainian diplomat. Meanwhile, Russia and the U.S. appear to set to meet in Saudi Arabia, essentially peace talks happening without Europe or Ukraine being present in any capacity inside of Riyadh in Saudi Arabia here soon. This is something that a lot of people have started to notice, and many people inside of Europe have been talking about a good bit, as many people know that there's a certain kind of an underlying diplomatic development that's been going on for a while now, over years. As a matter of fact, this has been going on far longer than we've ever run this channel. I would say this has been going on for about the past 10 years. With the end of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, U.S. and European relations were generally incredibly high, but have slowly started to decline over the decades, and around the time of the early 2010s, we already started to see that some leading voices in Europe were starting to question whether Europe shouldn't detach from a U.S.-led Western sphere and largely create a Western sphere of its own, completely detached from the United States and doing its own thing for the large part, conducting its own trade deals, conducting its own defense objectives and prerogatives, such things like that. This has heavily been spearheaded ever since the French President Emmanuel Macron rose to the presidency inside of France a long time ago. Emmanuel Macron has been one of the largest proponents of a separate European sphere outside of the Western sphere as a whole. And we have seen that this has started to pick up traction in recent years because of a perceived inaction by the United States or a perceived unfriendliness by the United States in other means. For the large part, to explain, at least what we've been seeing, either the United States is roughshotting the European states on a diplomatic level, or they're so benevolent they may as well be leaving the Europeans to their own devices. It's one or the other generally these days, and so it's leading a lot of European nations to believe that they may be better off conducting their own defense agreements, conducting their own military defense prerogatives, and not only that, looking out for their own economic interests, largely detached from the United States or a United States-led sphere of influence. It seems as though many people are starting to speak about this, and it's a bit of a concerning thing, but many people are saying that it appears that Europe will most likely form their own defensive alliance in the future. Interestingly enough, I would actually call it the EUTO, or the UTO for the European Union Treaty Organization. I would assume that that's most likely what it would end up becoming. Some others saying that it's possible but unlikely. Others are saying that the Europeans cannot pull that off, and some are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well? Because it sounds as though on the diplomatic level, things are starting to become a a lot more vocal, at least in this perspective, about the Europeans possibly going and really splitting from the American-led Western sphere and creating a completely separate Western-aligned sphere, but European-led in nature.
Yes, indeed. And I must say, for the Europe to be calling for an army of Europe, basically a new version of NATO, that is an extremely bold call to make. And that should make the United States shiver in their timbers a little bit, because that might cause Europe to start basically fading away from the United States' influence, which is a little bit concerning to hear. So it looks like 55% of the audience said yes, a European NATO will form soon, while 22% said it's possible but kind of unlikely, and 16% said no, the EU probably can't pull that off. And I would say this, with as many EU countries that are currently behind this idea and are about to meet on the sidelines of this conference, it sounds like they are very serious about this, and Ukraine's even calling for an army of Europe themselves, in addition to several other countries. And honestly, based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like France is spearheading this charge. It sounds like Macron wants to be the head of it, based on what we're hearing right now. And like I said, that should make the United States think twice about excluding Europe, because once again, that's one of our largest trading partners. That's also one of our biggest military alliances in the world right now, is with Europe, and we should really not want to lose that. So if that does not make the United States think twice, I'm really not sure what will. But I'm actually with the 56%. If this keeps going the way it's going, a European NATO might actually emerge soon. It's definitely on the table, based on what we're hearing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I do believe that some form of a UTO may actually appear in the future if the diplomatic situation continues to transpire largely in the way it has been for years at this point. It hasn't, I have to say this, it hasn't really been looking too good on an American perspective to the Europeans on what we have been doing. For the large part, the United States insists on being the leader, which is totally fine. We are the largest military and economic power within the sphere currently, so quite clearly we would be the leader. But either we are roughshotting the Europeans under the current arrangement, or in the last arrangement, the United States is so absent, Europe may as well be on its own anyways, at least in terms of clear guidance or leadership on what the Western sphere's aspirations look like. This is starting to pose issues for the European Union. And for the large part, I gotta say, on the home front, many Americans don't really feel the difference at all, whether we are completely benevolent to the point that we may as well not even be in Europe, or we're roughshotting everyone to the point they really don't want to be around the United States. No one at home really feels it yet. But the thing is that if the European Union begins to split, or begins to continue to stay largely a Western sphere as far as their ideological alignment, but they start to separate from the United States, and then it appears to become unfriendly, that actually might hurt the United States more than a lot of people believe. Trade in between the United States and the European Union is significant. In 2023 alone, the United States and the European Union conducted a combined trade of nearly $1.6 trillion in goods, just over that 1 year alone, which is an incredibly significant amount of goods. Actually, really quickly, that's actually in euros. So let me go get the euro to dollar translation. And let me go get this right here. And let's put in 1.6 trillion. And let me make sure here that is 16 million. So, you know what? We're just going to say it's a lot of money. Like we're just gonna,
I think that might be better. That's a lot of zeros to count up.
Because it's a dollar and euro is worth $1.05, so it's practically 1.6 trillion US dollars, maybe 1.7 trillion US dollars. But nevertheless, out of that entire total trade in 2023, the United States is actually at a trade deficit with the European Union. And a lot of people always think that a trade deficit sounds really bad. Trade deficits are totally fine. It really doesn't matter which direction the money's heading in, because as long as the trade is helping for people to be able to access the goods they need to generate economic activity, that's really the only important thing that comes out of trade. Nevertheless, the United States is in a trade deficit with the European Union as of 2023 of nearly 200 billion US dollars, which is a fairly significant kind of a trade deficit. This means that we actually need European goods far more than Europe needs American goods, at least in the I guess you could say US to European exchange. we need European goods far more than they need ours, at least by the total trade deficit number that we're seeing at this point. This means that as far as we're concerned, the Europeans actually hold leverage over the United States with this trade deficit. A lot of people don't understand that it's actually not the United States that would end up hurting the Europeans in some kind of a trade war if things started to become incredibly unfriendly. It actually would be the other way around. Domestic consumer markets inside the United States would be devastated by a significant loss of European goods because of some sort of a trade war. Meanwhile, European markets really wouldn't be that affected. They would be hurt, but they would not be hurt as severely as the United States due to the fact that we have a much larger trade deficit than they have. Actually, as a matter of fact, they actually have a trade surplus with the United States in terms of total trades. It's also something to say that there isn't really a lot of sense in splitting up the Western sphere. And I see some people trying to advocate in the chat that, oh, the United States sucks and is terrible, and oh, the Europeans never loved us. They're a whole bunch of angry little sad people because they're not as good as the United States. The reality is that both sides need each other a great deal, whether they like it or not. The Europeans are the largest economic conglomerate in the entirety of the world. The United States is the largest single national economy in the entirety of the world. Europe combined has one of the largest armed forces in the world. The United States has the largest armed force in the world as a single nation. Europe and the United States, largely what NATO is right now and what the European Union is to the United States, is a kind of a glue that really cannot be separated in any way without causing extreme damage and harm to both sides. And not only that, it's knocking everyone down a peg. Right now, with everyone in the friendship group that we're in right now, with all of its problems and all of its benefits, we stand as the most important alliance, the most powerful one on the face of the planet. Nobody gets close, especially considering that the European Union as a whole has a GDP of nearly $19 trillion, and the United States has a GDP as of this year, well, last year actually, of around $30 trillion. With those two things combined, we have a combined GDP of $50 trillion. This means that the only closest thing that comes to us on a national level, which is China, is about 2.5 times smaller in economic size than the European-American alliance that exists right now. This is by far the most important alliance that's ever been seen on the face of the planet. It beats out anything that's ever been seen before. The allies from World War II, the allies of World War I, the Axis powers of World War I and World War II, the Soviet Union, anything that's come before us, the Roman Empire even, has not gotten to this kind of scale, power, and prominence ever in world history. To try and split the two groups, because the United States, some people in the United States don't really like the Europeans, and the Europeans don't really like the Americans for one reason or another, is an incredibly bad idea and an incredibly bad action. And I think that we would largely live to see the day that we would regret such a thing, and many people would start to realize that it would have been far better if we had faced the challenges of the future together instead of separated.
I honestly think that the United States could probably stand on its own 2 feet. If it came to trying to separate our economy from Europe, it would hurt the United States. I think it would. Well, actually, I don't think that. It definitely would hurt the United States. There's no doubt about that. But ultimately, I think the United States would recover from it and be able to stand on its own 2 feet. But the risk to me, the bigger risk, is what is Europe going to do then? Because now they've lost a trading partner, are they going to start moving toward the Chinese sphere of influence, which would not be good for United States interest whatsoever? And that, to me, is the bigger deal. And I think they probably actually would start looking at China, because at that point, the United States would have no leverage over Europe at all. They would have no reason to sort of like lean our direction, because they're reliant upon themselves at that point for defense, and they're relying on each other to make sure they're not being attacked by, for example, Russia. And they might want to align toward China for economic benefits, which, of course, we know what China would do with that. They would certainly eat it up. So it's just not good. Like, we need Europe. We need Europe for military reasons and for economic reasons. And to threaten that alliance is certainly not a good thing to do, in my opinion.
And also another thing that I want to point out, because no one thinks about this, if we chop the Western sphere in half right now, and Europe goes their way, and the United States and North America goes its own way, do y'all know what happens? It means that the Chinese are now on equal footing as far as GDP and economic power as the whole of Europe and also the whole of North America at the same time. Right now, with all of this combined, we have a combined GDP of $50 trillion, and the Chinese don't even get anywhere close to having the combined power as our sphere has. Nowhere in the world could they end up finagling or managing that kind of monetary power with any other country. There's just like all of the other countries in the world combined would not be able to produce a GDP that got even close to what the combined European and North American alliance is right now. With the split of Europe from the United States and the United States from Europe, now the Chinese are within spitting distance of both. And that means that the Chinese start to have a lot more significance and prominence on a world stage, because instead of dealing with a united Western sphere that can far overpower them economically every single day of the week, now the Chinese are dealing with two completely separate spheres with their own ambitions, and while both of them ideologically are largely Western aligned, the Chinese can deal with them and largely try and overpower each one after the other, pretty much piecemeal for the large part. So it's not really a great thing on the diplomatic level to do such a thing, and I would say that we probably would want to see that there is some sort of a way that we try and work through this. Hopefully everyone can sit down and really start to realize that this would be a very bad path to go down. Hopefully the president of France and also the chancellor of Germany could figure out that that they really cannot do as good without the United States, and hopefully the president of the United States will be able to understand that the United States wouldn't be where it is and it wouldn't be as well off as it is without the whole of Europe. So I hope.
Also, do you think, like, here's another question. Do you think that if Europe starts relying upon themselves for defense, so let's say they start developing a new European version of NATO, if you want to call it UTO, you can call it that, or whatever they want to call it. If they start relying upon themselves for that, and they're also, once again, like you mentioned with the trade situation, they sort of have leverage over the United States, then what advantage do they have to keep trading with the United States at that point? Because basically, I think at that point it's going to kind of get personal, because Europe will feel like they've been slighted because the United States is not there for their protection any longer, and they don't really have an incentive to keep trading with the United States at that point. And also, we lose our leverage over them because, once again, Europe does value tremendously the amount of military aid we bring to the table when it comes to protecting Europe. They value that a lot. But if you take that leverage away from the United States, what does Europe really have left in common with the U.S.? Not very much. And at that point, honestly, to use it for lack of better terms, they're kind of butthurt at that point that the United States has kind of abandoned them. So they're not going to want to trade with us. And I just don't understand why we want to do that, because why do we want to like piss off every single European ally like that in the middle of a potential World War scenario where China might invade Taiwan, the Middle East might be about to erupt into a really bad regional war, and also Russia is still on the loose invading countries like Ukraine. It seems like a bad time to do that.
Yeah, I would have to say that largely would have to be the case. And also, I'm seeing all kinds of comments in the chat about many different things. Europe can take care of itself right now. That's largely a misunderstanding by many that they can't. And I also don't think that a lot of people realize that if the Europeans split off on their own, that's a nuclear-armed alliance right there. The British and the French combined have about 800 nuclear weapons at their disposal. That's actually about as much as the entirety of the People's Republic of China has. So the Europeans, as far as their military power and their nuclear deterrent, would be about as strong, almost identical, as a matter of fact, to the entirety of the People's Republic of China. So it would pretty much just be splitting the Western sphere in two, and then pretty much creating a similar group with the same kind of economic and military prominence as the People's Republic of China. I believe, as a whole, let me go check this. European military spending. So as a matter of fact, actually, the European Union spends more on the military as a whole than the entirety of China. So I want to put this out there for a lot of people, because this is something that's actually shocking. China, as of last year, spent $330 billion on their military. And that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Although the United States spends about $1 trillion every year, which is truly a lot. China spends about $330 billion as of last year. Do y'all want to guess, with everyone saying that Europe can't take care of themselves and they're going to get curb stomped by everyone on their own, do y'all want to know how much the Europeans spend as of last year on the military, excluding Ukraine?
How much?
$460 billion.
Damn, that's a decent amount, actually.
That's actually a lot. That's about half of what the United States spends on its military, and nobody gets close on a national level to what the United States spends. Not even China. China is the second largest military spender in the world, and they only spend a third of what the United States spends on its military. So with that in mind, I'd have to say that the whole idea that the Europeans are just weak and helpless is a little bit overblown, because the numbers here. Now, let me get this for y'all. This is the International Institute for Strategic Studies, which puts out great information, is $460 billion US just last year. So with that in mind, I would have to say without a shadow of a doubt, Europe would be fine on their own. Like, and that's kind of the thing that we don't really want to like really push into Europe's face, because the United States would be fine on its own as well, but we're far stronger and well better off together. Who in the world's going to mess with NATO or the entirety of the Western sphere in the state it's in right now? Like, with it being actually unified and whole, nobody would want to mess with that. It is the largest military power on Earth, not just because of the United States, but because of the Europeans as well. I mean, they have a massive military when you actually put it in the numbers. The Europeans have, I believe, around 1.7 million active serving members of all armed forces across all countries in Europe at this point. That is a lot. That's actually more than the United States, as a matter of fact. We have about 1.3. So they actually have us beat out in the manpower numbers by about 400,000 more. They spend about half of what the United States spends on the military. They spend an entire $150 billion more than the Chinese do on their military. And the Chinese are only spending that little amount of money on their military, and the United States considers the Chinese an existential threat in a crisis. But for some reason, when the Europeans spend $150 billion more annually on their militaries, then we want to say that they're weak and feeble and helpless and cannot survive without the United States, and that they need to ramp up the spending. Like, I get that a lot of people want them to meet the NATO spending quotas, and that would be great to see that every single country could meet those NATO spending quotas. But in the condition that Europe is in right now, I largely would say that they probably would be fine on their own. And also on top of that, they have two nuclear-armed members, the UK and France. So who in the world would try and start steamrolling the Europeans, for example, the Russians, because the metric is still the same. Whether it's American nukes hitting Moscow or British and French nukes, the Russians would get nuked. So who in the world would really mess with the Europeans, even if they were on their own without the United States? So once again, considering that the Europeans militarily and most likely economically could just wander off and do their own thing, I think it's far better for everyone to remind each other we are far stronger together as an alliance right now than we would ever be apart. Because that would be a very clear and obvious thing. That's like saying we have 100 people right now, and we're about to go into war. So you know what? Screw that other half of the 100 people that we have. We can just go fight the war on our own with 50 people. Like, that just does, who in the world would ever make an argument like that? There's strength in numbers. So it'd be far better to have those strengths in these numbers than to try and start splitting the whole thing up, because we have a whole bunch of egotistical people in France, the United States, and Germany, and elsewhere who believe that they'd be far better off going it alone. Ego is a big killer these days, and I don't really think that we should allow ego to really drive these kinds of decisions on what this sphere will look like in the future, and we're largely splitting up the most powerful military and economic alliance that has ever been seen in the face of history. But with that, I hope that does give a good answer to that. But nevertheless, Ukraine says it will not be going to Saudi Arabia for talks in between Russia and the United States, and a lot of people are wondering whether the Russians will even show up. And it seems as though a lot of people are saying the Russians will fail to show up, much like they failed to show up to Munich, because they're not there again today. And the Munich conference only has about 18 hours left on it, and it doesn't appear that the Russians are ever showing up at all, although they were claimed to have supposed to have shown up. Others are saying that the Russians will show up to this one, and some are saying that's a bit of a 50-50 split right now. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this one?
All right. So once again, there are talks allegedly scheduled in Saudi Arabia, I believe for maybe next week. I'm not really clear exactly which date it is, but apparently Russia and the United States will be in Saudi Arabia, or at least diplomats from the two will be there discussing potential peace talks with a country that they're not even involved in, apparently, which is Ukraine. So those two countries are going to be there, and will Russia even show up? So it looks like 36% said no, Russia will fail to show up, while 35% said yes, Russia will show up to this one, and 23% said it's a 50-50 chance right now. And I would say this, the fact that it sounds like Ukraine is not going to be there, it sounds to me like the Russians will have a 50-50 chance of showing up. But even at that, though, I'm having some doubts that they'll actually be there, because they didn't show up to the Munich conference, just like the enforcer just mentioned, and they were apparently invited by the president of the United States, and they still didn't show up. So I think it's a 50-50 chance. And also, we were told that Putin should be meeting with the U.S. president at this Saudi Arabia meeting, and that's also up in the air as well. So nothing is concrete, even though it's being made to sound like it's concrete. So I'm actually with the 22%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I believe it is a 50-50 split. If the Ukrainians are disrespected or the Europeans are disrespected and they don't show up, the Russians may just show up simply for the fact that that might continue to divide the Europeans from the U.S. and the U.S. from the Europeans in the future. So they may just do that for a diplomatic, I guess you could say, let's see, what would we call it? Agitation reasons. That would probably be the best way to put it. But still, at the same time, they might not also show up because they really aren't wanting to end the war in any way, shape, or form anytime soon. Even if the conditions were favorable, they really are wanting to achieve a total victory in the conflict, and not just some terms. They largely want to achieve everything that they originally set out to at the beginning of the war. That may also be the case, although militarily, I don't think they'll be able to survive that much longer. Like, say, for the entirety of another year. The situation is looking pretty fragile right now, so I don't really know if that would really work for them, but still, they might give that a shot, possibly. But moving on from that, we also were able to hear of something else that's fairly interesting. Also, by the way, I do have to mention, folks, no politics, please. I know we're talking about foreign policy and domestic things, and so many people really do want to take a time to attack political groups and political parties and all that kind of stuff. This just isn't the channel, folks. I beg of you, please. It really does wear me out sometimes to see folks always coming in and trying to make political grandstands. Doesn't matter. Like, believe it or not, y'all, whatever you say right now, it doesn't really matter, because the president of the United States is going to be the president for the next 4 years. And also your representatives are going to be your representatives for at least the next 2 years. And then your senators are going to be your senators for who knows how long, because they serve for 6 years apiece. So coming in here and trying to make your political grandstands on the channel doesn't really do anything rather than instigate fights and really just kind of cheapen the whole coverage of the thing, really, because like I'm trying to talk about it in a very apolitical way and just speak about the analysis of the whole thing and say what would be a good action, what may not be a good action. But you know, getting deep into politics doesn't really benefit anyone at all. And at the end of the day, we're not the U.S. government. So I just have to say this really quickly. I don't know why people are coming in here and blaming everything on me and Matthew, like we're the ones running the entire United States of America. I know maybe many people would like to blame us, and a lot of people would like to see us in the position of president, so that way we were the ones to blame, but we're not the ones to blame. We're just from the United States of America. We're covering the news. We have our well-intentioned sorts of standpoints in support of American and Western interest. That is what it is. I don't really know why folks are coming in here and saying, oh, well, you sick shit, that's what you get. It's like, I didn't do any of what the United States is doing. I just covered the news, and I happen to be an American. So, anyways, you know, please keep it civil, folks, because, you know, also getting into politics, that just creates a fight, so don't get into politics. Just keep it civil, folks, and talk about what you like and what you don't like without getting political. That'd probably be a good thing to do. But moving on from that, and into the area of Chanbahar, inside of southeastern Iran, we were able to see that there was a Iranian military buildup within the area, and we were able to see some video and picture evidence of this, as well as Iranian light attack helicopters were coming in. We also were able to see tentacles being brought in. And then last but not least, we also saw more fearsome tentacles being brought into Chanbahar.
Oh, no. His jalopies.
Oh, no. We're screwed, man. But nevertheless, there's some sort of a weird military buildup happening around Chanbahar at this point. We really do not know why. I have been trying to look for some sort of an explanation. It is kind of close to the Strait of Hormuz, but it would make a lot more sense to have a large military buildup at Bandar Abbas if that was their objective. So I really do not know at this point what the military buildup around the town of Chanbahar is really about. So a lot of people have been talking about it. I don't really know much about it, but I wanted to point it out to y'all because military buildups like that are not incredibly common inside of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we don't really know what it's for. It wouldn't have any real impact on anyone outside of Iran, to be entirely honest, but it is still something interesting to note that this is all happening as it appears that U.S., Israeli, and Iranian relations are beginning to deteriorate heavily again, and it does appear that the United States has given the Israelis the green light to practically do whatever action they deem necessary to deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran and their nuclear weapons development programs. But moving on from that, and on out of the Middle East, it is now time for us to finally get on into the Ukraine war news. And we actually have a lot of it tonight. A load of it, as a matter of fact. And before we get into it, I do realize that so many people have wished me a happy birthday. They're still coming in right now. And I've seen so many of them. And I got to thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes, Trap and Terps. Because crazily enough, folks, I actually turned 23 years old as of today, on the 15th of February of 2025. And you cut out again. Man, I don't know
Damn,
what's
it
up with
won't
your
ever
microphone.
pick it up. That's
Dude,
crazy.
Dude, it literally went, and that was it. It sounded like you got, like, grabbed and, like, yanked off, like, air. I was like, what in the world? Dude, that microphone's really, like, throwing some tricks on you these days. But
It's Discord, by the way. I've got noise canceling on.
man, shoot, man. But nevertheless, we have hit 23 years old. Well, I've hit 23 years old, which is a pretty neat thing. Another year older, and I've been doing this since I've been 20 years old. And a lot of people are gonna be like, "Wow, you're only 23. You haven't lived." There it is. Someone said it. Yeah, but still, somehow we get the analysis better than most other people who are in their 40s doing this here on YouTube. So I'm pretty happy about that. But beyond that, a really cool thing to know that my birthday was today. I thank everyone so much for all the happy birthday wishes that have been coming in throughout the entirety of the stream. It's been really nice of y'all, and it does mean a lot. And also, really quickly, to speak to so many of y'all. Because we've had so many people wishing me happy birthday today, and we want to make sure to talk to some of y'all about that. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so our first super chat of the night goes to John Person, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, John, for that support, and we appreciate that support very much. And John said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and thanks for everything you do.
And thank you so much for the massive support, John Person, and thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes. It was a pretty good birthday today. I'll be honest with y'all, I accidentally slept in a lot. Well, to let y'all know a little bit of the schedule, I generally go to sleep sometime in between 4 and 5 in the morning because I drink so much coffee before the show. I just cannot go to sleep before then. I just literally just stay awake, like I'm just wide open in the bed for hours until, eventually the coffee wears off, and then I can finally get to sleep. So I woke up around 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, which means that I got about 8 hours of sleep. And then I got ready, and then we went and had some cake, read some cards. Also, got to give a huge thanks. Matthew got me a little birthday gift. It was a very nice birthday gift, along with several others. I got a Frisco Railways boxcar in HO scale, pretty cool, which is the St. Louis, San Francisco, and Frisco Railway. Pretty neat. I thought that was really nice. It is a very nice model, well made, very, very well detailed, because you always ship it with Frisco, as they say. But nevertheless, let's see here. What else? Let's see. Oh yeah, just kind of sat around, had some pizza. We actually finally cashed in the pizza fund. And then we cashed in the coffee fund right before the stream. It wasn't really like a huge birthday. It wasn't like I went raving or anything like that. I'm not really that kind of a person. But it was still a good birthday, and it was nice to just celebrate turning 23 years old, because you only turn 23 once. You never turn 23 again. So a huge thanks to you so much once again for support, John Person. I hope that does address that incredibly well, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to be here to celebrate another birthday with all of y'all here on air. And so with that, a huge thank you to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to none other than, guess who? It is BC Skyman, who puts in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, BC, for the support yet again, and also very generous support. He said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and we, the LSA, are blessed to have you guys working so hard to bring us the news every single day and keep up the good work. And here's some coffee funds and Slava Ukraine.
I gotta thank you so much for the support and the birthday wishes, BC Skyman, and I did get great gifts. I actually just got 3 HO scale model rail cars. I'm actually trying, I haven't mentioned this at all on the stream, but I'm actually trying to make a little model railway layout in the background. The progress on that is non-existent, but I have been thinking about it and trying to work towards it, so hopefully we eventually do that. Well, I eventually do that. Matthew just kind of comes back and looks at it from time to time, and it is neat, but that's what I'm kind of working towards at this point. And Matthew got it dead on the nail. I don't know how he really knew, and I think it was just raw luck, really. But he actually got a Frisco rail car. There was a couple of others. There was a sulfuric acid one, a little CSX box car, and then nice birthday cards, of course. But the modern ones I really can't use. The Frisco one's dead on the nail, and I actually was shocked that he even got one, because Frisco isn't really something that's represented a lot in the little model railroading world. But it was a railroad that actually did run to Birmingham, Alabama back in the day. So I was really impressed with that. I was like, wow, no way. I was like, he got a freaking Frisco boxcar. I was like, how in the world, what are the odds? But an incredibly cool thing. So the gifts were great. And that's hopefully that'll be a fun thing to do and kind of spend some time on, because y'all know I like railroads and railroad operations. So what better to do than get off from working a job like this and then pretending to work someone else's job 87 times smaller than the real deal. So that ought to be pretty cool. Like that ought to be pretty neat. But let's see here. What else? Got a cake. That was good, of course. Always enjoy cake. And some pizza. It was Papa John's stuffed crust pizza. It was good stuff. But beyond that, that's pretty much all there was today. Beyond that, it was a pretty kind of like a normal day for the large part, just kind of sitting around. And then Matthew and me joked around and talked a little bit before the show. And then we talked and joked about this one guy who said that there were gangs on the planes, like snakes on the plane. And then we got on there, and then we got to talk to every single one of y'all. And so I hope that does address that well, but thank you so much once again, BC Skyman, for being here. You've practically been here since I turned 20, which is crazy to think you're here now while I turn 23, and it's wonderful to know that we were able to celebrate all of our birthdays pretty much from 2022 all the way up till now with each and every one of y'all. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, BC Skyman. And with that, also, XX Cornered Stone said, American trains smell like pee. No, you're mistaken. That's the Long Island Railroad. That's not an American railroad. That's a New York State railroad. So it's like totally different. I'm kidding, by the way. It doesn't smell like piss. It smells like shit. But beyond that, that's someone will say he's about to retract, and then I'm not going to retract, and then someone's going to be pissed, dude. They're going to be like, screw you, man. Look, I like the Long Island Railroad. It's just that I sometimes don't like the people who ride the Long Island Railroad, okay? I like the M7 and the M9 and the M3s, but the people who ride it sometimes could be questionable. And I haven't even been to New York. I've just seen the videos of people on the Long Island Railroad, and I feel sorry for the folks who have to deal with them sometimes. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the last super chat of the segment. But a huge thanks to you once again, BC Skyman.
Yes, indeed. And our last one of the segment is going to go to Howard Mendelson, who puts in a $125 donation. And thank you very much, Howard, for that massive support, by the way, the biggest one of the night. And Howard said, happy birthday, 25s for the pizza, and hopefully you guys will visit New York and have some real pizza.
And thank you for the support, Howard Mendelson. And while I kind of just like took a jab at New York City, I actually do want to go to New York City one day. Because I'll be honest with y'all, Los Angeles was very different in both good and bad ways. And isn't it crazy, man? They dealt with the fires, and now they're dealing with floods.
Yeah, it is crazy, honestly. They're having some bad luck. Oh yeah, I see the floods now. I see that on the map, actually. Look. Man, that's just bad luck. Like, they had the fire, and now they got the water. That's just both bad things. And also in the same areas the fires happen.
Yeah, literally the same spots up here in the Palisades and the, let's see, what the Eden fire, and then I believe this one was the Burbank fire or something else along those lines. But crazy, dude. They finally largely got the fires contained and under control, I believe, and now they're dealing with floods in almost the exact same spots of LA. An unfortunate thing for those folks. They're just getting roughshotted at this point by nature. But nevertheless, moving on from that, I do want to visit New York one day, because New York City is a place that either gets an incredibly good reputation by the people who go there, or people just act like it's the worst place ever, and some of those people have been there and some of them haven't. I really like to go places to see what they're really like, because, then that also allows me to get a fairly clear kind of an understanding of how to make good jokes that people from there would understand, because one, that's funny, and two, I also do want to see New York City. It's the wealthiest city in America. It produces the largest GDP out of any city in the United States. So it would be really cool to see it. And also, it would just be neat to go around and say that I actually saw the things you see in the pictures, like the One World Trade Center, this bug in a snow globe, the Statue of Liberty, and all the other cool things that New York City is known for, like that, or that building right there. Yeah, that one. And also this nice lamppost that's incredibly nice. I actually really like that one. Or better yet, this kind of a skyline right here where it looks like you're living in a metropolis, because you actually are. It's like one of the few ones in the United States that actually is like a super metropolis. Or better yet, we could go in the subway. I would love to go in the subway, and I'd like to thank the National Guardsmen who are down there right now battling in the subways. It's like, man, it's a wild thing to think. But this is what a subway station in New York City looks like. And I know a lot of people are like, ugh, that doesn't look like beautiful South Korea. South Korea's metro systems were built in like the 80s and the 90s. Excuse you. These are traditional Americana. These things were built in like the 1910s and the 1920s. Back when electric traction on the railroads was brand new. So I can kind of get, oh, look, Radio City's right there.
That's pretty neat. I'll be honest with you, though. I wouldn't get on the New York subway right now. I'd have to pass on that little experience. I don't want to get thrown onto the tracks or something.
Well, you know, I would just keep your back on the wall or something, like, you know, on the piss like stained wall. I would just do that so that way that doesn't happen. But, you know, still beyond that, I would like to see the subway. Crazily enough, Matthew, on Reddit, there's an entire subreddit of people who like worship the New York subway. Like I'm a bit of a rail fan myself, and I like to look at different kinds of trains, but I've never really considered myself a fan of metros and subways. Just doesn't really like really excite me. But there are people out there, man, who will be like, what is this specific subway? I have never seen this one before. It's number 739 and it has this weird dash on the front of the cab. And I'm like, dang, I'm like, these people are like foamers but for subways, and it's just a little bizarre to see that. But still an interesting kind of a place. And maybe one day we'll go and see it, because, you know, like, while I'm not really a big fan of New York City subways, to be entirely honest, I still would like to see it, and just take a gander at it just a little bit, just to say that we went here and we got to see it, the largest city in all of the United States. And so with that, I hope that does address that. Let's see. Someone said subways are fine in New York City. Let's actually pull up the incident rates. Let's see, incident rates for the Metropolitan Transit Authority. Let's see. The customer injury rate was 3.27 per million customers in 2022, down 19.5% from the previous year. While a market improvement, this remains above more typical oh, wait a minute, I can't read that. But apparently it's actually risen. Like, it's risen apparently since the Wuhan whirlybird. Incident rates are higher. And I know a lot of people are like, wow, well, let's see here. Let me make sure that the rates, let's see, was 3.27 per million. That's actually fairly low. Usually the running record would be per 100,000. That's usually how you do like crime or incident rates. And that actually is wildly low as a per 100,000 incident rate. If we did the math on that, that's less than 1. So it would be like a point percentage. But still not bad. Actually, it doesn't sound too bad. I think it's just that the things that happen down there, like for example, people being pushed onto the tracks, it doesn't happen much, but it happens enough and it gets enough coverage that it panics people, and so they're trying to deal with the public panic of it, possibly. Maybe. But anyways, with that, also, someone said, sucks if you're the 3.2, actually it's 3.27 per million, so it's not the 3.2%, it's actually just the 3.27 per million, so, you know.
Yeah, but you know how many people are like getting on the subway every day, though? Like, I think that's like, I don't know how many people get on the subway, but it's got to be over like 1 million daily at least. So, I mean, every single day, people are getting shanked and shoved on the subway.
Subway daily.
Yeah, man, it's freaking like at least like what is that? Let's see, what is that? 3, 6, 9, 7. That's like 12, 15 people getting shanked or shoved a day or something like that, or something happening to them.
Well, yeah, but that's not that bad. Like I don't mean to like mitigate it, but that's not that bad when you think about it. Because like, how many motorists die a day in the country? How many motorists die in Alabama every day? Motorists die in Alabama daily. Let's see here. In Alabama, a traffic crash was reported every 3 minutes and 38 seconds in 2022. In 2022, 986 people were killed in Alabama, in 907 fatal accidents. So as far as that's going,
only a couple a day.
Well, yeah, but that's 3 a day. You know, for about 5 million people. And you know, and all 5 million people aren't working. There's maybe only about 2 million people in Alabama who are working, and 2 million people who are commuting to and fro from work. And out of those, maybe 4 million transits a day, which is fairly close to what the New York City subway system's getting per day. About 3 of those people are going to end up dying every single day. So it's like only Like, your chances of dying in an automobile accident in Alabama is about 3 times less than getting shivved on a New York City subway any day, any given day.
Well, at least presumably it was an accident, though. At least if you get creamed in the car crash or something like that. Now, if the car pulled out a knife and was trying to shiv you, like from across the lane or something like that, that'd be a little bit different. At least to me, though, it's like people actually trying to get you or something. But it's not good. But honestly, I'm just going to tell you, man. Like, I think the New York City subway is still dangerous. I know some people are like, it's safe now, like it's perfectly fine. There's some shady characters hanging around those subways, and I'm not sure if they've gotten it under control because now they brought the National Guard into those subways. But I've seen videos of people getting thrown on the tracks, people getting shoved, shanked, fights breaking out between just normal people riding the subways and going about their business. It's just crazy stuff happening.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, though, Matt, you're saying, well, at least like no one's trying to deliberately crash into you. Does it matter if you're dead either way, whether it was an intentional or not? Like when you have the little halo and the harp and you're floating up to the great beyond, does it really matter whether that was intentional or not? You're still dead.
I mean, to me, it kind of does. At least the accident was an accident. I mean, it's not good if you're dead, obviously, but at least it was an accident. They weren't trying to like intentionally like ram their car into you to like take you out or something. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I just kind of look at it if you're going to die, like whether it was an intentional killing or whether it was accidental. I just generally don't want to die. Like, I don't really care which way I go. It's like, what are the chances of dying or like getting? And anyways, those incidents, 3.27 per million, not all of those are fatal. That could just be an incident like someone got mugged or something, and they just got beat up. Maybe, that could be something like that. That's not fatalities per million. That's just incidents that happen per million. Like, how many people die? How many people die on the New York subway? New York subway.
Also, Robert Massey said, didn't a lady get burned recently on the subway? Yeah, I saw that. The lady got burned. Some crazy dude went up and threw like some lighter fluid or something and got her. So yeah, I saw that one. Now, I know those catch a lot of media attention. I know people are going to say, well, the statistics don't back up. That doesn't happen like every single minute of the day on the subway. But the fact that stuff like that is happening and, crazy people to that extent are running around the subway, to me, that's a bit concerning because I'm not sure what the gun laws are in New York, but I don't think you can just carry your gun in there, can you? Like, I don't think they have concealed carry, or do they? Or is it very restrictive?
I think it's a fairly restrictive kind of a thing, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is, and that's concerning to me because in Alabama you can conceal carry wherever you want, but in New York on the dangerous subway, I don't think you really can, or it's very restrictive.
So, so apparently 88 people, as of let's see. So in 2020, it appears that 88 people ended up getting obliterated down in the New York City subway system across the whole year. So statistically, interestingly enough, over the entire year in terms of fatalities, it's actually 10 times safer to ride the New York City subway than it is to get out on the streets in Alabama, driving a car.
Honestly, that's not that shocking, really, because Alabama is a really dangerous state to drive in because the drivers here don't know how to drive.
And also, by the way, homicides in, let's see, 2023, well, actually in 2024, there were 10 homicides in the New York City subway system over the course of the whole year. So, really, to be honest with you, that's actually not that bad. I mean, like when you think about it, 900 people end up dying on Alabama roadways annually at this point, and then only 10 people get intentionally murdered in the New York City subway over the course of a whole year. Doesn't seem that bad, actually. Like, like most of these people are apparently, taking a little leap. Most of them aren't getting, shivved down there. So it actually appears by the numbers, by the, amount of riders per day, that's actually a fairly safe kind of a thing.
Yeah, I guess somewhat. I guess it's gotten such a bad rap, though. It makes me kind of scared to get on it. But if you got the cojones to get down there on the subway, I say more power to you,
man. And we've got the cojones. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support. Hopefully, we will be able to go to New York and try a real New York style pizza because I'd like to see the place one day, just to say that I went there and got to witness it. Probably will ride in on a train. Really, I think that would actually be pretty neat. I'm just kidding. We probably would fly in. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, it is time for us to move on, I believe, into the news. Like, I think that was the last super chat, wasn't it? And also really quickly, just to address this, I'm not going to throw in a comment on this one, Matthew, because I'm just going to let the audience speak for itself. What are the odds that a major war breaks out in the Middle East between Iran and Israel in a couple of months? And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about that?
All right, so just a quick poll on this one to see where everybody stands on the situation in the Middle East, because of course the tensions are brewing between Iran, Israel, and the United States. It sounds like they're cooking something up. So it looks like people were saying that about 37% of the audience actually said there's high odds of that happening, about 60 to 90%, while the same 37% also said medium odds, 30 to 60%, and only 22% said low odds, 10 to 30%. So it looks like most people think the odds are decently high that a major war will break out in the Middle East. And I would have to say I agree with that. The U.S. has already thrown their support behind Israel, basically taking out Iran's nuclear sites, and it sounds like the plan is in motion and it's simply a matter of time until that's going to happen. And once again, Iran sounds to be getting ready for that as we speak. So I'm with the 37% that said high odds. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say probably high odds as well. I don't even think we need to explain that further. I think that's just an explanatory sort of a thing in its own right. But moving on from that and into Chernobyl, we did get to see that the firefighters have been fighting the small fires that have been breaking out around Chernobyl. According to what we've heard from the international agency, the International Atomic Energy Association, the Ukrainian firefighters have been working around the clock in freezing weather to completely extinguish small fires that still smolder after Friday's drone strike on the building containing remains of the reactor destroyed in the 1986 Chernobyl incident. We've also been able to hear just outside of Kyiv that a drone fell onto the frozen ice of the Sea of Kyiv and was recovered by the Ukrainians with a rope. They just attached a rope to it and then pulled it off the ice. Meanwhile, we've also been able to see outside of that some air defense going on as the Ukrainians have continued to shoot down drones with chapas. Check this out. They're taking pot shots at that Shahed. We actually saw one of the rounds kind of like bounce through it right there. We see a couple of hitting as well. Oh, and it looks like the drone was going down. Oh, and they got a solid hit right there, and it's going on down. Dude, honestly, man, it's like World War I dogfighting footage with how it looks.
Yeah, honestly, man.
Dude, who ever thought that you'd see, like, gun cam footage in the 21st century, man? Like, unbelievable, really.
It's really crazy.
And there goes the same one again, for some reason. Is this just going to start looping? I'm a whoopa. Oh, and... Oh, dang, they actually filmed the explosion of that one. Impressive.
A farmer lost his crops that day.
And we can see a surveillance drone here. It looks like they just picked a piece of it off right there. And now it looks like it might be veering away slowly. Now see them firing once again at another drone, hitting it dead in the middle of a turn. Very impressive right there. Oh, dang! Good lord, dude. Some dangerous flying going on. And that's the end of the clip. But an amazing thing right there. Really cool to see. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see them engaging a drone with the main gun of this Mi-24. You really can't see much rather than the flash of the gun and the sound, but it was a really cool clip. Oh, that was cool, wasn't it?
Oh, that's nasty.
Man, nasty. Think nasty. Also, I like the little Chernobyl sign they have in the corner there. I'm just kidding. That's I forgot what the sign's specifically for, but it's for something else. But moving on from that.
Well, that's for like the radar being on or something.
I don't think the Mi-24 has a radar, so I'm trying to think of what that is. Like, I can't actually think of it off the top of my head. But moving on from that and into Lvov, we did get to hear about the possible murder of a Russian commander, Bliet. Apparently, there has been a commander that was killed in a supposed mining, but it appears that no one else has died on that road from ever blowing up on a mine, so they're now assuming that it may have been a murder conducted by a lower-ranking soldier against the guy while he was on the road. Moving on from that, we were able to see that a Russian stronghold got destroyed today by a Ukrainian bomb. Oh!
Whoa, Jack! Whoa! They dropped the big one! Whoa! They went to the hills with Xi Jinping. They borrowed a nuke and they said, "Yo, drop it on him, huh?"
Well, my butt's been wiped.
Oh! They wiped their butt. Oh!
And that's the end of that little clip. Nice to see that they were able to hit that command post. And moving on from that, we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting a little ATV. Y'all know how this is going to go. There's the Russians, and here comes the drone. Uh-oh. Looks like they didn't expect that one coming. Uh-oh. And he saw it last minute. Scary, scary stuff. But moving on from that, it's not Halloween around here. It's Christmas, because this is the season of giving. And the Ukrainians are giving out a good thrashing. And we were able to hear this from the Russians themselves today. Here's the thing. We're getting out of hell. Here's a deputy, February 5th.
Yo, deputy's seen some things.
And he said these are all the guys that are left. And even then, deputy got in a day earlier. There's our guide over there. Guys, come closer. Let's all group up. And now they're saying they're all going to be getting out of hell. That's not how that works.
Ah, a knife. Take that away from him quickly.
Dude, he's like, I saw terrible things. I saw all my brothers in arms getting blown up, and it was terrible, and I'm going to have nightmares. But at least I got this cool knife. And then pulls like the knife out. He's like, but moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see the artillerymen of the 47th doing their job. Do their duty. And in case you said, where do they get these bums? From Russia. Oh, man.
Rumor has it they go by the rapper name Riff Raff.
They call him the ragamuffin. You know, something like that. You can check in, but you can't check out. But moving on from the 47th Brigade right there doing some artillery work, we also got to see down on the southern front some drone operators hitting Russians.
Oh, look, Alada. This must be that Russian brigade that lets them use the Rudniks, bliat.
Commander, can we modify our vehicles to get a 1% increase in chance of survival? Duh. Saw the top off and turn it into a pickup, Liat. And then they turned the whole lot into like this abomination of a pickup.
See, it's good on Soviet engineering.
You don't see graphite on the top of the ladder. You're delusional. There's no roof there. It's a freaking pickup. Oh, and the mortar just hit him. Holy moly. Call them bricks the way they put it on that mortar. Oh, because they're laying them out. Oh.
Oh, and the Masons are here on the battlefield. Freemason.
Man, I'm telling you, that's when a Mason does their work for free. Freemasons.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's the expensive Masons.
But also, unfortunately, we did get to see that a Russian fiber optic drone did hit a Ukrainian Strela today in the Kursk area. Once again, the fiber optic drone is moving at a walking pace. You could actually go and just swat this thing down out of the sky if you saw it. Also, that tiger looks like it's on something else. It looks like it's going, ah! You know, it doesn't even look like it's roaring or anything. It just looks like it's messed up.
That looks like one of those tigers that attorneys like to use on their law advertisements.
Call me, Alabama. Grrr. You know, something like that.
I'll beat him up like a tiger. And they show a picture of a lion or something.
I went through law school and all this debt just to sit here and rob people for the remainder of my life, or something like that. Anyways, moving on from the Kursk area, we are moving into our location unknowns. And boy, are y'all going to have fun with these. We actually got to see an M14 in use in Ukraine. That's actually fairly rare. And I also like the rap that they gave to it. Pretty cool overall. But moving on from that and into our next little bit of location unknown news, we also got to see an F-16 mock-up being made. And look at that mock-up.
Oh, man. Looks like they're building something at Groom Lake out here.
Man, you know, the Ukrainian mock-ups are pretty cool, man, because not only do they look a lot like their counterparts, but they also add the mock in mock-up, because when they sit out on the tarmac, they go, I'm an F-16. I'm so good. Oh, the Russians ought to blow me up. You know, something like that, and then the Russians hit it.
You know, the Ukrainians are the best in the world. They have shed works here at Lockheed Zelenskyy. They're building the best mock-ups the world has seen.
Our F-16s are the best in the world, capable of defeating the F-35. You know, something like that. Something along those lines, maybe. Can I get a Hoya?
I'll tell you what. Ukraine and their shed works, I'm telling you what.
Man, and then we got to see them testing out the buckshot drone. You can kind of see it firing already right there. So let me restart that clip. I'm going to have to mute it, but you can see it firing its buckshot. Bam. Things running around. Call it Elmer Fudd the way they be blasting. Look, Jack, we're about to pop a bastard. Oh, and they're
Oh,
popping.
whoa.
Whoa, Jack, whoa!
Oh.
And they're about to come up, they're about to blast him, Jack. They're about to hit him. Whoa! They keep popping him. They popping him like Corn Pop. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad drones. But moving on from that, we also got to see a Kamaz supply truck that was hit, and it turned into a Hellrider road trip. Here is our Euro, блядь. You think пиздец, I have a what in this, where? What?
Man, what the hell?
Dude, this
What
guy
in
be
the
sitting
hell
there
does that
saying,
even mean?
this guy be sitting there saying, man, call that a mouthful, blade.
He must have big mouth, bleed.
Man, I hear, man, call it the groceries the way I be out here eating. Like, it's like, what the hell? Effing asshole guys don't know the door. Unknown asshole one. Like,
Hey, yo, pause. This guy's wilding out.
okay, so we pause. What are we waiting for?
Resume.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody know if the guy's okay? That asshole.
Effing asshole on fire and thriving by what the best. Someone give him a bite of ass to eat or something like that. I have a what?
He said it again. He did it again. He said, I have a full ass in my mouth, unknown. Well, that's not good. You should always know.
I don't know whose ass this is, but I'm eating it.
He said like a sit rep too. He said, full ass in mouth, unknown.
This is SEAL Team 6. We have a full ass in our mouth, I repeat. Like, it's like...
Unknown origin, over.
They are obsessed. Like, it's like they got an issue here.
I think it's consistently rolling at like 3 miles an hour too.
It just keeps going. Wait, did that guy have a Mosin a gun? No wonder he's talking about eating ass. He's eating, like, no wonder. Oh my god. I think I have a full ass in my
He said it
mouth.
a third time. Oh my goodness, he's getting really foul.
Oh, he's getting real foul up in here.
Oh, that's foul mouth.
And now you were shooting at us. I think this guy is like on bath salts or something because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyways, that was an interesting clip. We're going to move on from that now and into the Russian casualty report because that's got to be better. Oh!
Oh, look, 2 Bobcats. Whoa, tell us more.
And I have to tell you, man, the Russians, they certainly, they certainly, you know, like, their asses got bitten. Like today, they weren't eaten, they were bitten. But nevertheless, Miss Decent Keeper of the Record stated that 59 artillery system ranks with others as the 15th highest daily loss, and is above the 7-day average while others are below. 117 drones and 127 vehicles are both the 14th highest loss. And the numbers were decent today. 1,180 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed in the past 24 hours, along with 17 APCs, 127 supply trucks, 11 main battle tanks, 59 artillery pieces, 117 drones, 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 2 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, it actually wasn't that bad of a day. And speaking of bad days, oh man, I'm telling you, let's get on into the frontline news. Oh man. Moving on into the front lines, we need to see...
Also, just a heads up as well, by the way, Enforcer, just as a note for us, if I tell you to get up and run, you know, to our place in here, I mean get up and run, because apparently we're under a tornado watch right now, and it looks like it might get serious here in a second.
Well. For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. Well, fellas, we're going through some rough weather here. Rough weather, I tell you. Rough weather. And right now, we're in what can be described as a cracker box. So, tough winds, this thing doesn't do well in. So, moving on from that, it's time for us to get on into this clip here. Oh, and they hit those mortars. We see them slamming them over and over. Can y'all believe it, folks? A tornado landed on my birthday. Crazy, right? Crazy here.
We got some serious storms coming our way. I'm checking right now to make sure we're not going to get blown away. Whoa, let's see what's going to be.
Whoa, Jack, whoa!
Looks like we'll be off air by the time we get sucked away, but it'll be okay.
Aw, man, did someone say suck?
Oh, oh man.
That took a while to connect. Like, you were like...
I was too busy looking at this radar here trying to see if we're going to die.
Man, I'm telling you.
I'm going to do the obligatory Southern thing, too, and when I hear the sirens go off, go open the door and go, what the hell is that noise?
Where is he? Where is it? There
I
it
don't
is.
see it.
It looks like it ain't moving. It's getting bigger, you know, or something. And then it runs right over us.
Oh, this is a fat one.
Man, this thing's getting big and fat, just like our damn sister Shanae. I'll be damn. Oh my lord. Pieces, Reese's Pieces, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs. That's the
also, you know you're in a really good structure, by the way, when you hear the windows cracking and creaking, like under some 20-mile-an-hour winds. Like I'm here, it's like I'm in a ship up here right now, like where I'm sitting. I'm like, that's a little bit disconcerting. Hopefully the window stays nice and steady.
And also, I see some people saying, well, y'all ought to be safe. Y'all are in a basement. No, Enforcer 2.0 ain't no basement. Enforcer 2.0 is a small townhouse that's built kind of shoddy-like. So, Enforcer 2.0 could get blown away, like, quite easily, being entirely honest with you. So, we ain't kind of in the safe sort of situation we was in last time. Also, that's why the lag ain't hitting as badly. It's because we ain't in no basement. We out in the wide open here. So anyways, moving on from that, we got to see this friendly tank here on the move. Look at her go. Well, would you look at that? That tank right there is rolling right by, ling low, nice and damn fine, man. But moving on from that and down into Turretsk, we also got to see the Russians getting hit right down here. And we got to hear that Chad music. We also got to see a knight down there in the bottom right, like Kingdom Come Deliverance, nearly. And Con LSA said, guys, tornadoes are no joke in Alabama. Believe me, we've nearly been killed by 2 of them. Both of them passing.
We had one pass by. It ended weird. Like we moved from like a place that was considered like the tornado central of Alabama, which was near Montgomery. That place got tornadoes all the time, but it never hit close to us. The moment we moved to Birmingham, one passes like a mile away from our house. Like literally dodges us by a little. Yeah, I think it was like less than a half a mile. It ripped by our house.
Yeah, well, let's see. The first time the tornado passed by us, I think it was about a mile away. And then the next one was about a half mile away. I mean, we've been close to 2 of them at this point, just in the past few years, that we've actually been able to hear the tornadoes, and they really do sound like freight trains rolling by. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. They sound just like that. But anyways.
Yeah, I never believed how, people said it's a weird feeling when you stand out there when a tornado's going by. It feels like the whole like atmosphere changes, and it really does. Like the wind starts moving in this really odd like way. It's sort of like still, but it's not. And you also get this weird sense that something odd is going on, and it turns cold all of a sudden, which I've never felt before. I'm like, huh? Like when a tornado is coming up. Like there's no mistake about it when one's like showing up close to you.
Man, you want to hear something crazy that's going to blow you away, like, pun intended, when you hear about it?
What's that?
So the Pilgrims were the first English settlers, really the first settlers in the entirety of the Americas of colonists that dealt with the tornado. And it was, I think in 1642, there was a rough storm going on, and they all got into pretty much like a church or a meeting hall or something like that, and the tornado went right over them and blew the windows out and also lifted the building up off of its foundations for a bit and then just dropped it right back down. And so imagine, dude, all of these pilgrims, they're still dressed, mind you, like the pilgrims you see, like, like kids dress up as, like the buckled shoes and like, the pilgrim hats and all that kind of a deal. And they're in this building that no one even knows what the hell a tornado is, because they just never happened back in Britain for the large part. So it lifts them up on the foundations, drops the whole building. And then they said that according to the witnesses, because no one died in this at all, like no one even got injured, they all just went bursting out the front doors of this building and running out into the open as the tornado was still passing through. And we're like, what the hell? What happened? And then like nobody had a clue what had gone on.
Yeah, I'm sure I wouldn't know what was going on either. If one hit her here right now and we got sucked up and thrown out, I'd be like, oh damn, like this was a bad thing. If you even have a chance to think that.
Man, I'd be honest with you, man. It's crazy to think, man. They were the first people to deal with a tornado, man. You know, they didn't even know what the hell was going on. They were probably like, "What in the world?" But moving on from that, we also got to see the Ukrainians holding it down.
Слава Ісусу Христу, козацтво. Всіх вітаю, поліція особливого призначення, ОШБ, НПУ, Людь. Знаходимось зараз в місті Турецьк. А отже, 7 лютого 25-го року російські ЗМІ повне взяття.
That's actually a local steam train. It's the local delivery in the morning.
Пункту іншими військами. Проте це не так. Наразі у нас свято, 14 лютого. Даю всіх закоханих. Ми НПУ Людь. Також.
And someone's opened up a carpentry works inside this building.
Спецпідрозділ Корд.
Working the wood, блядь. Woodworking.
Тримаємо оборону міста Турецьк.
Working the wood.
Woodworking. Woodworking.
Aw,
Translation
man.
error.
You know what Hot Dog Man does in his free time? He is also working the wood. Aw, man.
Master Carpenter, блядь. Hundreds of hours.
Call me a woodworker the way I be working it.
Oh, God. He really went there.
Moving on from that, and down near to the area, kind of around Pokrovsk, this Russian showed off all the fiber optic cables that are now sitting in the trees, because the Ukrainians learned from the Russians that fiber optics actually are pretty good for stationary targets, so they are using hundreds of them now in that area, so everything is covered in fiber optic cables. You can see the shininess of them right there. Aw, man. I tried to get some from a refugee and they wouldn't give it any to me, so I went and became a woodworker. Aw, man.
Oh, man. Never mind. I'm not going to say that. That joke's probably inappropriate. I'll just pass on that one.
Aw, man, time for me to totally dive into politics and completely drop the Ukraine grift altogether. Aw, man, I need a desk and a chair and a trip to D.C. Aw,
man.
But moving on from that, we also get to see this Panzerhaubitze 2000 in service. I always like these. I think they're just so neat. The Germans make really cool-looking equipment. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see a little bit further down, and we got to see that they were hitting them with clusters. Check it out. We got to hear that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 music.
Also, by the way, folks, I'll say this. If we see a tornado coming up on us or something like that, we'll probably still actually be on the air by the time that happens, because the super chat list is very, very long tonight. We'll probably be on actually until 1 o'clock. So that's about the time it'll be hitting. So maybe. If it looks like a tornado's coming our way, I'll turn the camera on, show you, and see the damage. There you go. That's like a big thank you for watching the show for that until 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll show you the tornado ripping through.
Man, that would be great.
Yeah, that would. Like, wouldn't that be that'd be like, we had to change the title for that, by the way, too. Tornado rips through Enforcer HQ live on air.
Dude, we would be on Daily Dose of Internet the next day. Hello, everyone. This is your Daily Dose of Internet. Watch these two war bloggers get ripped away in a tornado. And then you just hear us going, oh, shit. Whoosh, and then, like, everything goes flying out of the camera view.
Oh, man. Show me holding onto my desk for dear life, flying out of my chair and junk.
Dude, we would be viral for like 15 minutes. And then we would have our 15 minutes of fame, and it'd be the last minutes of our lives. But moving on from that and on up into the area of Kyiv, it is time for us to get to the speech really quickly. I actually have to go find it because I didn't include the link to it. I still forgot somehow. Oh, forgetful me. Woe is me. But nevertheless, here is the speech. Holy moly, that's a long one. Hold up, we got it.
Whoa.
Oh my god, it's the whole thing. We're gonna watch like maybe like 6 minutes of this and then get on into the question segment. I know some people really want to be like, oh, come on, watch the whole thing. But we do have like time constraints and limits to how long we try to run these shows, so that way they don't go on forever. So we might cut this down to only about the first 6 to 8 minutes. But nevertheless, here it is. Speech!
Дякую вам дуже. Thank you so much.
Do
Дякую.
we have a different version of this, Matthew? Please. I beg of you.
What's it called? What is this? MS Munich Security Conference Zelenskyy speech. There we go. I understand. Yes.
It is actually called the Promova Volodymyra Zelenskого na Otsnovi Snesi Monchenskoj Konferencji Bezleki. Yeah, that's what it's called.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit hesitant to go and get extra video because we don't want to get copyright issue on the stream. So we might do stick to this one.
I have to be honest with you. Now that you bring that up, I shiver my timbers, and I am actually scared of showing another version. So, with that in mind, we are going to just continue to play this one, and you are going to listen to the weaker dub of Zelenskyy's amazing voice. So, without further ado, here is the speech.
Give me the speech now.
Дякую за ваші слова, за вашу підтримку. Дякую за запрошення. Шановні пані та панове, на початку конференції кожна країна зазвичай говорить про свою позицію, пріоритети, офіційно, відкрито чи неформальні розмови з журналістами, з партнерами. І цього року країна, яку навіть не запросили, все-таки дала про себе знати. Країна, про яку всі тут говорять, не хороша. Вночі напередодні Мюнхену цього року російський ударний дрон вдарив по саркофагу, який накриває зруйнований 4-й реактор Чорнобильської АЕС. Це був модифікований дрон «Шахед». Російський дрон, технологія, яку Іран передав Росії, його бойова частина несла щонайменше 50 кілограм вибухівки. І ми бачимо це як глибоко символічний крок Росії. Путіна. Буквально нещодавно в Україні ми обговорювали ключову роль ядерної енергетики у підтримці життєдіяльності країни попри постійні російські удари по нашій енергетичній інфраструктурі. І ми зараз готуємо проєкт, щоб розширити нашу Хмельницьку АЕС. Буквально за день до Мюнхену я був там, на станції, із залученням від американського бізнесу, включаючи Westinghouse. Цей проект посилить енергетичну безпеку не лише України, а цілого нашого регіону Європи. І ми також нещодавно говорили з президентом Трампом та його командою про атомну енергетику та найбільшу європейську атомну станцію, нашу Запорізьку станцію, яка наразі окупована Росією. І Росія відповіла, запускаючи дрон по Чорнобильському саркофагу, який стримує радіоактивний пил та уламки. І це не лише божевілля, це позиція Росії. Країна, яка наносить такі удари, не хоче миру. Ні. Вони не хочуть, не готуються до діалогу. Майже кожного дня Росія запускає до сотні або й більше шахедів по нас. Кожного дня. Регулярні удари балістичними ракетами і стабільне зростання кількості ударів кабами. Але це не все. Цього року Москва планує створити 15 нових дивізій, додаючи до 150 тисяч солдат. Це більше, ніж національні армії більшості європейських країн. Росія продовжує відкривати нові центри армійського рекрутингу кожного тижня. І Путін може це дозволити. Ціни на нафту досі достатньо високі для нього, щоб ігнорувати світ. І ми маємо чітку розвідувальну інформацію, що цього літа Росія планує відправити війська до Білорусі під приводом військових навчань. Але це точно так само, як вони розгортали війська перед повномасштабним вторгненням в Україну 3 роки тому. Ці російські сили в Білорусі для нападу на Україну? Можливо. А можливо, ні. Чи, можливо, вони для вас? Дозвольте мені нагадати вам, Білорусь межує з 3 країнами НАТО. Вона, власне, стала плацдармом для російських військових операцій. Відповідно до слів Путіна та Лукашенко, Білорусь зараз прийняла заборонену зброю, ракети середньої дальності та навіть ядерну зброю. Путін чітко розглядає Білорусь як просто інший регіон Росії тепер. І ми повинні бути реалістичними. Якщо хтось розгортає військовий плацдарм, ми повинні запитати, що нам з цим робити? І більш важливо, що можемо ми зробити до наступного нападу, наступного вторгнення. Пам'ятаєте, вже були провокації на польському та литовському кордонах з Білоруссю. Міграційні кризи, зроблені російською розвідкою, щоб наростити хаос у Європі. Але що, якщо наступного разу це будуть не мігранти? Що, якщо це будуть російські
Uh-oh, what happened? Hello? There's a Pop-Tart.
Pop-Tart. Have you ever had butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so friggin' good. One second.
What's going on?
I don't know. I have no clue. Hang on. 1 second, Chief. 1 second. Okay, hang on. Hang tight here.
Окупанти до нас в
Hang tight here,
Україну,
folks.
форма
Hang
новенька,
tight.
воєнні машини та троки, поплавився їх
Oh,
інвентар.
jeez. Oh, jeez, Rick.
Байрактар,
Oh, God. What's going on?
Байрактар.
Oh, God. Hang on, folks. Hang on here. We're gonna have y'all something to see. I meant to rebuild the whole stream on here. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Honestly, that might have been a good point to like maybe cut the speech at that point, to be honest with you, because it was getting very long and had like 20 minutes left on it. Oh, why's my computer so hot?
I don't know. Okay, so
Computer is hot as hell. I just touched the metal on it. This thing's freaking boiling.
it's boiling. Pull me out. Like anyways, folks, you should be back to seeing something. Hopefully, at this point, I'm so sorry about that, everyone, but we are going to have to round out the speech right there. I guess that is a. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold up. Okay. Hold up.
Also, can you screen share when you get the chance too?
Oh, yes, I forgot. Yeah, 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Sorry. Okay, everyone. So, basically what happened, the air coming out of my computer is still cold, and the computer feels tepid. So, I think it's fine. Its humors are balanced. But nevertheless, we are going to be moving on into, a whole other segment a little bit earlier than we would normally expect, because something happened. I don't really know how to explain it, but a Pop-Tart showed up, and it was a Pop-Tart. Like, it was just legitimately a Pop-Tart.
I'll be honest with you. I know this because I have the YouTube control like studio open during every stream, and so does the Enforcer. YouTube, if anybody from YouTube is listening, I think y'all have a memory leak on the YouTube studio page or something, because it keeps crashing like every 30 minutes that we have it open, and that's been going on for months actually. And it's just it causes my Chrome tabs to crash every like 30 minutes, and specifically the tab with the YouTube Studio open. So if YouTube's listening, like if y'all could take a look at that coding or something like that, it's like running the RAM on my computer ragged like every night. It does it to both of our computers all the time.
Man, I gotta tell you, it's a sad thing. But hopefully someone who's working at YouTube HQ can try and look into that and fix it for us. Would you? Would you be a dog? But nevertheless, it is time for us to move on into whatever we have in store for y'all right now. That ended unexpectedly, much quicker than I was ever anticipating. But nevertheless, we are going to try. While I now get a headache, I think, from the sheer stress of watching a Pop-Tart show up on my stream out of the blue for no reason. But we are going to get on into that question segment. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, I was taking a sip of water there for just a second, just to get the pipes loosened up. But anyways, to jump into our last poll here, this one says, Zelenskyy rejected the U.S. request to take ownership over 50% of Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Was this a wise move? 66% said yes, it was a wise move by Ukraine, while 13% said no, it was a bad move by Ukraine, and 15% said it depends on the details. And I would say this, it sounds like the United States was going to swoop in and take 50% of the rare earth minerals of Ukraine and fail to give them any security guarantees, which would have been extremely unfair to Ukraine. It would have been good for us in the United States, but it would have been really unfair to Ukraine. So I would say for Zelensky's side of things, that was a wise thing to reject it. And it sounds like he caught a bad deal in progress. He's not saying he's not open to giving over 50% of the minerals. He simply said he wants a fair deal before he hands over that much money, which is basically $250 billion in rare earth minerals, which is a wise thing on his part. So I'm with the 66%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that given the chance to answer your question, I rejected the mineral deal because it was a wise move, considering that they came in last minute and changed the arrangement. They said, we will take 50% of your minerals and we will give you nothing. And I said, that's a little absurd because we're getting nothing out of giving you minerals. So what I offered them was some essential minerals and oils, and then they said no. So it largely seems that right now, Ukraine and America is at an impasse. They want lithium, we want bombs, and we kind of got to get the bombs to give them the lithium. So I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion, being the president of Ukraine and everything, because that's the only thing that makes sense. So with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, it is time for us to move on into the question. So I'm going to be handing it back over to the Enforcer, who will answer all of your questions because I have other things to do. I have to talk to Joe Rogan or something. So goodbye. And so with that, we are getting on into the question. So what do we got, Matthew?
And if you'll give me the chance, it looks like, just checking the weather here real quick, it looks like the weather should arrive here sometime around 1 a.m.
Oh,
and that's around the time when the whole line of storms is going to show up. That looks like it's quite bad. So we'll be maybe here on the stream, maybe sometime around that point. So y'all might get to see it. But anyway, so we're going to keep an eye on that in the background. And we're going to move on now to our Super Chat questions once again. And this one goes to Gerald Everett, who puts in a $50 donation.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Gerald Everett, for that $50 support, and of course, helping to keep the channel running. And also, Havlin Tuff said, don't show the exterior views, you might dox yourself. I know, I'm not showing that. And in fact, that's why I thought twice about turning the camera on, because I was like, well, you know, if you're really good at geolocation, you could probably see the interior of our place and realize maybe where we're at if you're really good at it. So I don't know if anybody's really good at it in the chat, but I'm sure there is somewhere out there. I'm sure we got some people. Actually, I do know of 2 people that could actually probably do that right off the bat. So you might want to keep that on the down low. But we might show you maybe just a selfie of our face getting blown away in a tornado. But anyways, jumping back to Gerald's $50 super chat, he said there's been some semi-serious talk associated with the van der Leyen visit to Canada, of Canada becoming a member of the EU. And if that happens, it would give the EU a robust presence in the Pacific even before the Northwest Passage is open.
And I thank you for the support. I wouldn't really know a lot about that. I largely have to declare ignorance because I believe the European Union largely wants to keep everything on the European continent. So including a country into the European Union that is in North America, I'm not really sure how viable that may be, considering that they largely have a geographical limitation to who can join, from what I understand. But I would have to say, I thank you so much for the massive support and helping this channel to keep on running, but unfortunately, I'd largely have to declare ignorance on that because I just don't really know a lot about it at this point. But with that, I hope that does address why I don't know much about that a little bit, but still, thank you so much for support, and hopefully I'll be able to try and find some info on it if we don't get blown away to Kingdom Come here in like 2 hours by a tornado that may be coming our way. So with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And also, I saw someone saying it's snowing here in Arkansas, and it is actually snowing in Arkansas. It's snowing in Missouri as well. And down here in the South, we're dying. So it's like y'all getting some snow and some winter wonderland, and we're getting hell on earth down here in the South. Looks like so.
Dude, they're up there, man. Dingly, build a snowman. it's so fun. And then we're down here, oh my God, we're dying. Like, it's like, man, the buildings are being ripped off the foundations. It's over, we're all dying. But hey, you know,
what's weird as well is like, something's wrong with the weather when, like, for example, it started off tonight at like 60 degrees. The temperature gradually is climbing up to 70. It's almost 68 now. The temperature is rising during the middle of the night. That's not normal. So that tells you something is definitely on the way.
We are screwed. We are really screwed. But that doesn't sound, that's not normal, folks. Usually it gets down to like the 40s and 50s here at night. It doesn't go up in temperature. It usually goes down. That's interesting. That's really interesting, Matthew. And now I'm very concerned. Like, I'm really concerned. That storm front's got to be massive and powerful to literally be pushing the warmer air in front of it along the whole way. Like, significantly, as a matter of fact. Hell, it might reach 100 by the time that storm gets here. And then it'll be hot and muggy, and then we'll be hit with a tornado, and then we'll be looking like those people in the roller coaster pictures where, like, their cheeks are getting, like, blown outwards by the wind entering their mouths, kind of a deal. Like, we're going to be looking like that here in 2 hours. But
maybe.
Anyways, let's see. Some people are saying, a lot of people are, it's snowing in Massachusetts. Oh, that's fun. You guys should try a diesel generator. I hate to say it. We're leasing, so we don't really get that kind of ability to be able to lease a diesel generator into our yard. I don't think they'd allow that. Let's see. I thought it was more of a trade thing. Oh, I don't know about that. Happening with global warming for the last 3 decades. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, the weather sure as hell is getting a lot more irregular and a lot more erratic, like at least compared to when I was growing up. I mean, people used to know when things were coming around. Now stuff just comes around whenever and wherever. So, maybe that is true. I'd have to say, I think it largely is true these days. But something else that's interesting about Alabama is that we do have the Talladega National Forest.
We have the Speedway too.
Man, we got that damn Speedway. Pull it up on screen, my boy. God bless America.
Is that the Brickyard?
Man, I ain't no damn Brickyard. That's up in Dayton, Ohio. Hey, this is the damn Superdome. Talladega actually is a track that is interestingly shaped, Matthew. It's shaped in a way, I forgot what it was, but this was actually the track that they introduced in NASCAR that changed it from, being the fastest car to now have those speed governors on the cars now, because the cars would be able to get up to such speeds with the ramps that they have around the tracks and stuff, that cars would go airborne at Talladega all the time. And they would hit these guardrails right here. It was actually dangerous to go watching races at Talladega, because if one of those cars flipped up and flew into that guardrail, you could end up getting injured or killed by the debris.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I even trust that net. It's like, does that net really hold it down anyway?
Man, I don't know, but you got that bush swing, man. Good ear, my boy.
I can tell you what, the guys driving these cars right here, they ain't got soft hands.
Man, they've been working in the ball crushing factory for 15 years. They're hardcore, man. Damn, I tell you what.
They don't drink Miller. They drink Bush.
Man, I tell you what, man, they'd be drinking that Bush. They'd drinking that Bush, put some hairs on their chest. It tastes like water anyways, but they'd be putting hairs on their chest, boy. Yeah, we don't drink none of them hippie IPAs from the city that taste like liquor. No, we be drinking that water. We be drinking that bread water out here. God bless America.
They're working so hard, it's like they worked at the Connecticut sausage factory and put their hands to the grinder 5 times a day.
Man, I sit there and I literally live at the factory, man. I go straight up here to the Honda assembly line and build cars, and then when I get off work, I go down to the damn burger joint, buy myself a burger, and then go straight to Talladega and watch the afternoon races.
The boss said we need to bend some steel for the frames. I said, don't buy the piece of machinery. I'll do it myself.
Man, I sat there, I went to the Anniston Army Depot and stole some explosives to make sure that I can bend those steel frames quicker. I tell you what, we do at Alabama right down here. Cars built well. Go down to Talladega, damn it, look at our work. And man, honestly, man, I could hear that coming around easy. Let's see. Hang on. Colt 45.
Oh, wait. Show them Combat Park. Show them Combat Park over there to the right. You see it?
Where's Combat Park? Right
here.
City
It's where you can drive the tanks. City of Chaos, man. That's everywhere in Alabama.
Dude, that's just Bessemer, man. It's like you got the marker in the wrong place. But
We need to make a
that.
video here. We need to make a video driving one of these things. That would be an excellent YouTube video, I think.
Oh, they got a Humvee. But oh, they got the American M35.
Oh.
That's not even American. That's damn British. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they trying? That's not even American. That's British. That's an FV433 Abbott. What the hell are they doing? They calling this American? This ain't no American. They got damn spooky skeletons out here. I'll be damned. That's what you look like after a 29-hour shift at the Honda factory up the way. Let's see. I was about to say, is that a tiger? What? But dude, they only got British SPGs at this place. That's it. Like for
yeah, it's honestly, I thought they had a modern tank. I thought they had like a Abrams here or something. I don't see it. Hey, they had a car show there. I didn't know they had a car show going on here.
Well, I'll be damned. They got a caboose too. I don't know how that really fits in, but oh well. Yeah, they have car shows. Ew.
Man, there's the soft hands guy right there in the chair.
I bet you got soft hands.
he's the fella. He said, "You got soft hands, don't you?"
You ain't working 90-hour shifts at a ball crushing factory where they crush your balls. I work there. I don't have soft hands. I tell you what, damn. So I honestly would go here though. Like, no, not like dissing on it. I actually would want to drive a tank. Because I've never driven a tank, by the way, just never done that before. But let's see here, where that? Oh, this is on the interstate heading down to Anniston, which, whew, man, I've been through Anniston lately, folks, and it's a place. Like it's gotten a bad rap in Alabama. I didn't believe it until I went there. It is kind of a bit of a rougher place. But I didn't get to see it much, so I didn't get to wander around and get to chit chat with folks and really see if it was really, really bad or not. But it was interesting. What is the Baines Gap waterfall? Holy moly, it's water and it's falling. Oh my God. Man, that's actually nice.
They say that the chemicals that they drop from an army depot makes you much stronger when you drink it in your water.
Man, I think all these people are wusses talking about environmental regulations. Put arsenic in that damn water, make them strong or something. I'll be damned. we called this Baines Gap because we forgot the R in brains.
Oh man,
man,
that's Fort McClellan right over there.
Man, here's Fort McClellan right there. Damn, you could go right down to Fort McClellan, get yourself a damn job in the army, or something like that. You know what I mean? Damn. But
Cat Williams Studios. Did I see that correctly?
What?
Wait a minute. Right there next to what is that? Wait a minute. Is that Cat Williams like the guy, like the comedian? Go down to the right bottom corner.
What?
What is that? Is that the land he bought? That is the land that Cat Williams bought for his movie studio right next to Fort McClellan?
I'll be damned, boy. We've been making movies the right way around here. We've been making them the army way. What? Well, this is
what the
it?
Hell? I didn't know it was right here. I thought it was somewhere else.
Dude, that is not the studio. This is an abandoned industrial park. Well, this was made in 2014, so...
Well, he just bought it. He just bought it to fix something up, but I didn't know it was literally right next to Fort McClellan like that.
And then they got the biological testing facility right across the street.
Oh, really? What is that?
I don't know. I don't have a clue. It's like it's gone on the satellite picture, so it looks like at some point it was demolished. So I have no clue what that is. But that's interesting. I
don't know why you put a movie studio in Anniston of all places. Kind of an odd spot.
Dude, you can make a lot of action movies in Anniston, man. Like there's potential here. But let's take a look at downtown Anniston, because I've never been in downtown Anniston. I've only been down the way down here around the southern end of Anniston, right down here. So let's take a gander down downtown Anniston. Let's take a look. I feel like I've been lied to about most places that everyone says is bad. Like, because the good places are bad and the bad places look good. So, is it really bad or is it not?
I'll be honest with you, I don't like Anniston.
You don't like Anniston?
No, I don't like Anniston. It's not good.
Well, I'll be damned. They got a tiny rail yard down here. Look at that dime. But let's see. What are we wanting to really see here? What is this? This actually looks like a really nice little hotel there. What in the world? This is actually really nice looking.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
in the middle of town. Well, what do you know? In the middle of town. Look at that. That's crazy, actually. That's a very nice looking little place right there. They call it the Hotel Finio.
I thought it said Hotel Final. I was about to say, what the hell is the kind of name is that? The Final Hotel.
You check in, but you don't check out. But actually, this is
food.
Dude, this is actually very nice for what Aniston is. Like, it's wildly nice, really.
Oh wow, like it really is.
Man, I mean, like, honestly, man, I mean, jeez. The new Alabama elephant. What's that? No pictures.
Is there an old one?
No, old one died. They had to put it down. This new elephant is brought to you by the Rebuild Alabama initiative. We're bringing back one elephant at a time. But anyways, moving. Well, I think it's a build. What is it called, Matthew? The project where they like pave one road every year, and then they say it's like a part of the
Rebuild Alabama.
Yeah, this is a part of the Rebuild Alabama initiative. They brought back an elephant, so it's the new Alabama elephant, not the old one that got put down and had hip dysplasia. But
We better take our elephants to the veterinarian to make sure it's getting good health care.
Jack's Family Restaurant. This is not a family restaurant. This is a damn chain food restaurant. I want to find a mom and pop restaurant where we got one of them. I'm telling you, man, fast food has killed off most every single like restaurant of any kind here in America now. Like, wait a minute.
Dang, man. Sound like your esophagus almost got killed off on that one.
It did. It did. And I was just going to ignore it that time. But, okay, so this seems to be a local establishment.
Is that a pub?
It looks like a name. Is that a pub?
Is that a pub?
Man, I was like, well, look at this. You're like, is that a pub? Is that a pub, bud? What is that, son? Man, they got the damn Powerade drink up in here. Look at that. They got the damn.
That looks like that shark attack. That one you put the blood in.
Man, this one on the left right here, this one's called the damn shark attack in Florida, and the other one on the right's called the damn diabetes with lemon. But let's see. It doesn't really look like the old wings. Those look pretty good.
Yeah, not much meat on that bone, but it's okay.
Man, they get their chickens locally. Those are the chickens that are strong. Like we don't bulk up, we get strong, boy. Let's see here. Any other local restaurants? Oh, now there's a load of them. Salads to go. Nah. Below Zero.
That place is new. I saw one of those out in Dallas when I went there. Below Zero Creamery, man, that looks kind of good.
The Full Belly Deli. What is this?
Belly.
Somewhat Spartan, but let's take a look at the food.
Full belly, but empty restaurantee.
Why is the picture all the way over off screen? Like,
man, they don't want you.
What the hell is going on? Like, they're all off screen. Okay, this one's on screen. I've seen those wraps like everywhere.
Also,
so
the Costco wraps or something.
Yeah. I'm
man,
good.
It pisses me off. They're spilling the honey mustard out the cup like that when they were filming it.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I don't like that, me personally, either. Also, you can see where they ripped up an old rail line through here. You can see where it cut through the town up north. And they now use it for...
Is that a derailment?
No, these are 18-wheeler trailers that are just sitting on the side of the road. Can we see that? Like, yeah, that's... Seaboard? No way. They're old piggyback trailers. That's crazy, dude.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. So... I guess when Seaboard was leaving, they said, you know what, F y'all and F your town, and then they just unloaded all the 18-wheeler trailers and left them. Because y'all know the last time Seaboard System Railroad existed? Before CSX merged in the 80s. So, like, this thing's been here for well on, like, 40 or 50 years, at least. Like, that is great. Let me go show y'all one of them when they were actually used. Seaboard System Piggyback. Let me go show that to y'all because, like, that's crazy. This is what they used to do with them, is that they'd load the 18-wheelers onto a flat car and they travel them around the country. This was like the premier way of moving container traffic before the well car. So this trailer, like one of these trailers, it's been sitting there in this town for like 40-something years, unmoved.
The way they have them, like, spread out makes it look like it was a legitimate derailment.
It really does, man. It honestly looks like East Palestine or something like that out here. It's like
East Palestine.
East
Help
Palestine.
East Palestine.
We like East Palestine. We do not like Central Palestine. Like it, a little bit of an issue. But let's see. What is there any other way we can look at? Oh my goodness, they've got millions of these things. Or do we see any other cool trailers here though? These are so old. Burlington motor carriers. I don't even think they exist anymore, do they? I doubt it. I don't think these people get a lot of business, considering that these trailers are like ancient. Any other, nothing really cool showing up here. But that's crazy, dude. They just use the old torn up track area for like trailer stores. What in the hell? Dude. Oh my god, dude, this is where the Russians get all of that rubber from. It's from Aniston. Like, oh my god. It
says army tires.
They're as tough as you are. These look like used tires. Like these look like used tires to me. Let's see. Oh my god. It's just piles upon piles of used tires.
They look like they're straight off of like a bunch of military vehicles.
Kind of do look like that, yeah.
The treads are very aggressive looking for a road vehicle, and those are very large tires.
What in the world? Dude, Aniston is actually full of treasures. What is this?
That's a valve company.
That's it.
They don't make video games, they make actual valves.
We don't. Oh, wait a minute. Did they have a giant model valve in front of their building? Holy moly, they did.
That's what a valve looks like.
Man, that's like the video game developers. And you can see where they bring in the stuff.
Oh, look, a forklift certified individual.
Man, I get all the women in town. I'm forklift certified. Honestly, probably true. But let's see. This place is abandoned. You can actually see where, let me see here. Let me show you this. You can actually see where the rail line would have gone through this place before. And you can also see right here. Notice this little cut in the trees. That's where a spur line would have cut off to actually enter this area of the building back in the day. But they ripped all that up. So it doesn't exist anymore. And it also appears that there was another rail line that actually ran through here. Still does, actually. You can actually still see the tracks down there, right there. You can see them. And it ran to Tyler Union, which appears to create some sorts of goods. I have no clue what they are. But this whole place used to be rail serviced. It doesn't appear to be anymore. But the track, well, at least where the tracks once were, it still kind of exists. That's actually really cool, man. It's like modern archaeology to see where like railroad tracks used to be in a town.
Yeah. Also, I just saw like I don't know how somebody did this, but it was like somebody's house in a neighborhood. Don't go back to it because I don't know what's on it. But it literally said Tracy's crib on it, and it was like somebody's house with like a little like a marker above it.
So what's your business? Is a trap house? Oh, like
the crib.
Man. Also, I like how Aniston's already moved on from cigarettes to Zen because now they got Zen Park in the middle of town.
Yes, I see.
a town of true culture. Like, it's a real town of culture we got here. But anyways, not dissing on anyone from Aniston. I've never really been inside of Aniston proper. Maybe one day I will be. Wait a minute, y'all have a museum of natural history? Oh my god, it's actually like really nice.
Aniston has some like things in it that makes you think twice about just dogging on Aniston, really.
Dude, they got legitimate mummies in Aniston. Of all places, Aniston. Not Birmingham. They have a polar bear. They have a
ain't looking quite right, but it's a polar bear.
Man, the taxidermist had a hard time with that one. I don't know what the hell this is. Like, this ain't no black bear. And then they made it into like whatever they thought it could. But dude, this is crazy. I didn't know any of this type of stuff was in Aniston. Like, wild. This is actually eye-opening to see what's here in Aniston. So what else do they have of interest here in this town now? Like, now I'm actually interested. Here's Fort McClellan again, so we kind of made it up towards the northern end of town again.
They have the #1 Chinese restaurant.
Where?
Right
Number
there,
one,
right over
China.
there. I can tell you right now, the food's got to be busting coming out of here. When the China buffet looks like this, you know the food's good.
Dude, the food is unequivocally booling up in this establishment. When the neon's going out, you know the food's going in. That's not Chinese.
No, hell no, that's not Chinese, man. What the hell? That's like pizza. I'm not gonna lie, whatever the hell that is in the middle is burned to hell.
I think those are potato wedges overcooked. They do have this little rock fountain thing.
I can guarantee the interior smells like wet.
This is not Chinese. This is crawfish, like just normal crawfish. Oh my lord! And though they have sushi, California rolls, by the way,
crawfish
pounded to smithereens. Like they're like hardly connected to each other. Like they hardly exist. Let's take a gander here. What do they actually have that looks Chinese?
Also, be careful scrolling through the Google images these days. I don't know what's in here.
I don't think. I think we should be careful. I think we should be careful. I think we should eat that. This is a crime against cuisine, right there. It's just shrimp on a plate, like nothing else. No garnishments or anything, dude. I don't know if the food's actually bullying in this establishment anymore. What is? Nah, man. I don't think this is a Chinese buffet. I think this is just a buffet nowadays. But chef teas. Really? There's a lot of cars sitting around here, and it costs 10 to 20 bucks to eat. So, let me move this off screen really quick. I'm going to take a look at the pictures. All right. Oh, wait. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Let me just check them all. Okay, so I'm going to start y'all off on picture exhibit 1. It gets better than here. This appears to be the lowest of the low.
Just a squirt of mustard. What's
Dog
the logic
vomit on
this?
bread along with this. With something.
But taking a dump on Chef T's, man. Jeez.
But they actually do have good food. Like the first picture's bad. The rest of it actually does look pretty good. That's like a potato salad. And they got a nice little like Reuben over here. And then they got pulled pork. Oh, yeah, this actually does
look pretty good. That actually looks pretty good.
And let's see here. Country fried steaks with the gravy and the hash browns. This actually is a very good restaurant. I had to take a look. So I just dogged on the first picture, but respectfully, this actually looks like a very good eating establishment. I would go here and try it, like me personally. Fried green tomatoes with the white sauce. They're doing it right. But that white sauce has got to be kind of like sharp. It's got to have a good vinegary kind of a taste to be good. But I think these people can pull through. I think these people are doing all right. Oh, dude, they got the cornbread. They got that classic-looking cornbread. Dude, we got to go there and try it now, man. Like, oh, man. Like, this
they
actually...
got okra.
Man, let's take a look at their menu. Actually, very
Decent
affordable.
Prices. Yeah, decent.
When was this? Oh, 2017. That's not the case anymore. This is a bygone reality of life. That you could get a burger with American cheese for $5. That's probably costing 10 these days. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one. But still, I hope y'all enjoyed that look around Einstein.
All right, so with that, moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Hal Rose, who puts in a $33 donation. And thank you very much, Hal, for that support once again. He said, Enforcer Matt, tell me I'm wrong, but didn't somebody in the U.S. ask the Russian president to be his Valentine? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not privy to such discussions, but thank you very much, Hal Rose, for that support, and we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
Now, I gotta be honest with you. I don't know about that one. Interesting question, I gotta admit, Hal, but nevertheless, I don't know about any of that. I'd have to declare ignorance on that one. But nevertheless, I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And also, I just saw some people say, I don't know what fried green tomatoes are. How do you not? How do you not?
They're actually good. Like, I honestly always dogged on them until I actually tried them. I was like, well, who the hell would eat a fried green tomato? Like, what the hell's the point of that? But it was actually, like, really good when you try it.
So, this is fried green tomatoes. What it is it's tomatoes that have not ripened yet, so they're still green. You chop them up into pieces, and you deep fry them. And there's a special kind of sauce that goes with them. This is a fried green tomato sandwich at Disneyland Park. Don't trust it to be real. That might not be that good. But there is something that goes along with it called Alabama white sauce. Ought to be dip. Where the hell is the mention of where in the world is the mention of the Alabama white sauce? So here in Alabama, there's a white sauce that goes with them called Alabama white sauce, and I don't really know how to describe it, but it's a somewhat vinegary, kind of a sauce, and you dip the fried green tomatoes into them, and you eat them, and it's just so good. It is so delicious. Like you cannot knock it until you try it. It truly is one of the greatest culinary dishes of the South, in my opinion, next to fried catfish and everything else that we fry down here. It's just wonderful. Like, I would highly recommend that y'all try it. Also, Hulky Redneck says, do the enforcers like collard greens? Let me go check that really quick, because I think we have had them at some point. Let me go check.
I don't like collard greens. No, I've tried those. They're not that good.
No, yeah, I don't like collard greens. Collard greens just aren't for me. Like, I thought you were talking about, like, Brussels sprouts or something like that. Like, I like Brussels sprouts when you cook them right, but those, nah, I've never really liked those that much. I just kind of pass on them. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, thank you once again for support Hal Rose and helping this channel to keep it running. We are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Alfred's mom, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Alfred's mom, for that support. They said, happy birthday, Enforcer Andrew.
And thank you so much for the support, Alfred's mom. And thank you for the happy birthday wishes. I'm very happy to receive them. And it's wonderful to know that we were able to celebrate my birthday with all of y'all once again. And so with that, thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Cypress96, who puts in a $28 donation, and thank you as well, Cypress, for that support. And they said, happy birthday, Andrew, and is there any benefit to a fiber optic cable drone over a regular drone, and couldn't the wires be traced back to the original drone operator?
And thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes, Cypress. And the answer is yes to both of those. There is an advantage, considering that electronic warfare measures are completely ineffective against fiber optic drones. The drawback is that you actually can't trace the fiber optic cable back to its launch site, which really means that your launch site has to be mobile. It cannot be stationary like other operational sites for other kinds of drones, because you can easily trace back the operator to the origin site of the beginning of the fiber optic cable spool. So, yes, you're actually correct on both of those. There is an inherent advantage, and there's also a drawback to them, kind of like most other weapon systems. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And also, Danny B said, is that a remoulade sauce? I assume he's referring to the white sauce. I don't think so. I think the white sauce is a mayonnaise base, and they add, I believe, vinegar to it. It's actually kind of good. Like, it sounds not that great, to be honest, but it actually is really actually pretty decent. So it goes good with the fried green tomatoes, but not much else, to be honest, just the fried green tomatoes. But I don't really know what a remoulade sauce is, to be perfectly honest.
This is Alabama white sauce. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's remoulade. I'm not really a culinary expert to know what it really would be called, but this is what it looks like. It's pretty much just it's like a vinegary kind of a barbecue sauce. I honestly have to say it's one of my favorites, not only because I'm from Alabama, but it really is just so good on fried green tomatoes. You just cannot top it. I don't know what it would be like on a chicken, though. I have no clue, because I've only had Alabama white sauce with fried green tomatoes. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, people were talking about the nerve agents are stored in Anniston. That is true. They do store a little bit of those deadlies there in Anniston. But anyways, jumping into our next Super Chat question here. This one goes to Linda, who puts in a $28 donation. And thank you very much, Linda, for that support. And they said, happy birthday.
And thank you so much for the happy birthday, Linda. We are massively appreciative of it, and it's great to celebrate a 23rd birthday with all of y'all. And so a huge thank you to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Boulder Boy, who puts in a $25 donation. And thank you, Boulder Boy, as well, for that support. And they also said, happy birthday.
And thank you so much for the support. And thank you for happy birthday, because we are massively appreciative of it. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Hope that addressed that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next Super Chat, this one goes to, while I'll scroll back up, goes to Just Chillin', who's a longtime channel legend as well, and puts in a 23. And huge shout out to Just Chillin' for that support. They said, happy birthday, and take one from the chat.
And thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes. And we will make sure to take one from the chat. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that addressed that well. And what we got from the live chat, Matthew?
All right, so this one from the live chat is going to go to Taylor McLean, who said, what do you think about Ukraine giving up their land in a peace deal?
Yeah. Not in the current condition. The Russians have to give something back. Like, if the Russians end up keeping some land, like the Democratic People's Republic, the Donetsk People's Republic, or the Luhansk People's Republic, or Crimea, I could see that possibly, because there will have to be a compromise at some level. But saying that the front lines should only be frozen where they are right now, the Russians are giving up nothing. What the hell would be the point of an agreement like that? We're getting nothing out of it. So I would say, yes, the Russians can keep land. Like, of course, they'll obviously end up keeping something, most likely, but all of it that they have right now, absolutely not. I would find that to be a deal breaker, largely in negotiations. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Barry Woodward, who's another channel legend and throws in a $23 donation. Huge shout to Barry once again for the support. And he says, may the frosting on your birthday cake be as sweet as the LSA peeps in this channel, and happy birthday.
Thank you so much for the support and the kind words. And the Lee Spring Army is amazing, incredible, truly. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to have another happy birthday on air. And it really is crazy to think that we've been doing this for so long. I've grown up from being 20 years old to 23 at this point, and most of y'all have been here with me the entire time. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And I just saw someone say, what the hell is biscuits and gravy? Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Biscuits and gravy is amazingly good. None of these pictures are really doing it justice here. But this is, I guess, the best one. But that's kind of like chunky. Let me see here. Yeah, it might as well do. Biscuits and gravy is a special kind of a gravy put on top of biscuits. Not British biscuits, which are cookies here in the United States, but you know, American biscuits. They're very, very good. Delicious kind of a breakfast meal. Another good thing is, like we're just talking about, like soul food, is chicken and dumplings, which is very good as well. Another southern dish. Don't make it watery like that. That's a soup. You want to make it really thick, kind of like this. Very delicious stuff. You know, like it's not like really spicy or anything. You know, we're not talking about like a curry or anything here, but this is a pretty good dish in its own right. And I love it. Like whenever I have it, it's always a great dish because it's just so enjoyable to eat. It's got a good like balance, kind of bland flavor, but it's a bland favorite flavor that's really enjoyable for the large part. But I will be honest with you, I actually do like my food more on the spicy side because just adding a little bit of chili flakes to something really does add a lot of extra kick to it and a little bit of oomph to the flavor. It really helps to increase its flavor profile, in my opinion. But anyways, with that, I hope that lets y'all know a little bit more about Southern food, to a sense. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ari Sawini, who puts in a $22 donation. And thank you very much, Ari, for that $22 support. And he said, happy birthday and LSA.
And thank you so much for the happy birthday. I'm very happy that many people are congratulating me for a happy birthday. And thank you once again for support. And, of course, thank you greatly for being here for an incredibly long time. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Yavan Figueroas. I think I'm mispronouncing your name, by the way. I'm very sorry. Let me go back and take a look. Let me try to get this one right. And let's see. Let me scroll back up. I'm scrolling. I am scrolling. This is their first ever super chat, by the way. Yvonne, I'm going to have to not say your last name, because I think I'm just going to butcher it again, but thank you very much for that 21 euro support. And he said, Enforcer was right, serving doesn't make you an expert in geopolitics. I was just a subs sonar man, but I got assigned as a liaison with the NSA and SEALs when they worked with us because I was an OSINT aficionado. I was shocked.
And I thank you for the support, and that's actually really cool to hear. And I thank you for agreeing with me on that, because that's something that a lot of people misunderstand and misinterpret out there, is just because someone is kind of similarly related to something doesn't mean they're going to know everything about anything relating to that. Like, for example, a nuclear engineer working at a nuclear power plant probably will not be able to tell you the exact workings of a nuclear bomb. At least a specific kind. Maybe they might be able to, but that's not really going to be something that's exactly within their wheelhouse, or how nuclear deterrent will work for the United States. You know, it's not really their specialty. And that's something that happens so much with the military, and it's insane, is that, and this is kind of the issue I have, like, this is where my, like, kind of, like, stick in the crawl comes from, is that I'll be out here on YouTube, you know, telling all of y'all the news of what's going on and giving my analysis, and sometimes it's wrong, you know, like, I'm not an expert on everything like people would like to believe I am, but that's not always the case. But then someone will come and be like, ha, you're wrong, because so-and-so, who was in the army for 5 years and didn't really do anything at all while he was in, says that you're wrong, and he's obviously right because he was in the army for 5 years. And it's like, that is not how that works. It's like, for one, it's like, what kind of job did he have? And two, if he was enlisted, he doesn't really know anything outside of his job. I mean, like, you know, the enlisted, unless you're an NCO, you know, so I'm talking about, like, the lower enlisted, you know, things like less than, say, an E, well, an E 5 and an E 6 is an NCO, but anything less than that, like an E 6, Like, they're just there to do their specific job. Like, they're not going to know anything about greater strategic level concerns. Hell, they might know something a little up to the company level, but at the battalion level, completely foreign to them, may as well not even exist. Like, I know plenty of people, and I know I'm not speaking out my ass here, I know plenty of people who are currently serving, and things at the company level are almost foreign to them. They're like, well, you know, that's the company commander's thing. I don't really know anything about that. I'm just down here doing my job that I've been assigned to and doing my tasks. And they'll know a lot. I mean, they know everything about their tasks and what they're doing and, you know, their little part. But the bigger picture for people at that kind of level, it just doesn't exist. So I always find it a little annoying when I get on the internet, you know, and then someone wants to come in, I guess, that never really was around anyone in the military, and they want to act like just because someone was in the military, no matter what branch they were in or what job they had, even if they were lower enlisted and may have not really known a lot outside of their actual job category, they want to act like those people just know everything about anything. Like, you know, they could be in the Army largely as a cook, and then they're going to be able to tell you all of the inner workings of an aircraft carrier's operations at sea. Not to say that that person might not know about it. I mean, maybe they read about it, but you know, if there's some of the people I've seen where they get in the Army, you can clearly tell that they're very low effort people, and then they get out and they're clearly not reading or learning about anything, and then they want to say something and it's really just coming out of bullshit. Like, it's like that just is what it is to me. Like, you know, it's like like maybe some people might be offended about that. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, with that, I do thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. But still, very cool to hear that you actually were assigned to help them out as a sonar operator. And also really cool to hear that you were sonar operators as well, because I've always been interested in sonars. I don't really know a lot about them though. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Hokey Redneck, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Hokey, for that massive support. And Hokey says, the chat wants to know what grits are. Also, show it with shrimp.
Grits are a corn meal. That's the best way I could say it. It's ground up hominy and corn. So when the corn dries out, or the hominy dries out, you grind it up, and you create grits out of that. And that's what this is. This is just like pretty much just like ground up corn or ground up hominy. The flavor is incredibly bland for the large part. If you just have grits like straight up, you really have to like spice grits up with something like shrimp, like this, to actually make it good. Because I'll be honest with y'all, I'm just not really a fan of buttered grits. Like it's a southern thing, yes, but grits are just, you know, it's just kind of meh, you know, unless you really have a lot to spice it up with. And then at that point, you might as well just be...
You know, the best way for grits is if you get the grits, you get like the bacon and you get the eggs and you put them in one thing.
Scrambler.
And you scramble it. Yeah, that's the best. That's the only way to eat a grit.
Yeah, I mean, grits are great that way, but grits on their own just are bland and kind of lame, really. Like, there's so many more interesting things you could eat as a breakfast food, like from the South. Like, you could eat you know, pancakes, hotcakes, eggs, bacon. You know, this is just like the bottom rung option. And it really was the bottom rung option historically. Like, this is like if there was anything as like class in food in America, this was food for the poor in the South back in the day. Like, this was just the cheapest thing. It's just ground up cornmeal, and you just, you know, kind of boil it until it's warm and you can eat it. So, you know, it's pretty lame. But anyways, Verna Week said corn porridge, pretty much. Like, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, it's not great. But anyways, I hope that addresses that well for everyone. I hope that explains it. But me personally, I'm just not a fan. Also, Southern food. Let me go get y'all a list from Wikipedia of cuisine of the Southern United States. Now, this is a list. Because whenever we look at European lists, we're always like, oh my God. And there's some things on here that will make you go, oh my God. So let me see if they actually have the list. Let's see here. Oh yeah. I forgot, Matthew. There's like 9 different Southern food categories. Like, you know, Creole. I forgot that that's Southern. Let me go get y'all the actual list. Let's see here. Gee.
Mississippi mud pie. Look at that.
We've had those before.
Honestly, it looks very, very good.
It's like, remember, man, it's got like chocolate and whipped cream in it, and then it's got little pieces of pecan. It's really good. It's actually wildly good.
That looks good.
And then let's see here. Ah, dang it. Man, there's actually a lot to this, and they don't have a list like they do with like German and British and French food, apparently. Oh, dang it. Oh, look, reenactors are showing the food of the time. Not the greatest. This is Civil War era stuff for like soldiers, so it's not going to be great. But oh my God, like, are you kidding me? Like, they're not going to make this easy. List of foods other southern United States. So let's get it. The Alabama Slammer, in case you just want to forget everything. That also is just any rapscallion down in downtown Birmingham. They also call them the Alabama Slammers, plural. But let's see here.
Also, Walter A. Lakota said, look up Hawaiian food when you get done with this one.
Oh, yeah. We will. So this is one that always blows people away. Hush puppies. Nobody knows how they actually got their name, and depending on who you ask, anyone will give all kinds of different names about, origin stories as to where the hush puppy came from. But basically, it's just fried bread in a ball. It's cornmeal based, so it's kind of like fried cornbread in a ball. Really good. I actually do like hush puppies. They're not bad.
I know why they call it that. I know why they actually call it that. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. It says hush puppies redirects here from Nigerian fraudster. What the hell? But anyways, apparently there's some other fraudster or somebody that's called Hush Puppy. Interesting. But I think the reason why they named these Hush Puppies is because they would actually fry these up and feed them to the dogs to hush them up. I think it's legitimately why they call them that.
I think so. But let's see here. Anything else? Cornbread is a fairly common kind of a thing in the South. Cornbread's great. I will never tolerate any cornbread disrespect, especially when it's buttered. It's just very good. Let's see. Corn pone. Oh, yeah, I've had these. Yeah, these aren't bad. Like, it's pretty much just like cornbread, but flat. We've had them before. But let's see here. Biscuits, traditional American biscuits, never can go wrong. You can have jam on them. You can put anything you want in them. They're just incredibly good. They always should be a little bit buttermilky tasting, like a proper kind of a biscuit. If they don't taste like buttermilk, they've been made wrong. There's also banana nut bread. This is a great bread, delicious bread. Cuban bread, which I've never actually... Oh, hold up. No, we've had Cuban bread a million times. It's just that I didn't know that it was called Cuban bread. We just call that, like, like long bread. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I just call it long bread. But let's see. Gingerbread. Gingerbread is actually a thing of the South. All of y'all must know gingerbread. Gingerbread's good. And then you have yeast rolls. Dinner rolls are better. And then there's different kinds of bread. Anyways, moving on from that, we're going to pass the cakes. Although there's plenty to talk about in the cake category, like, most cakes are from the South. Anyways, moving on from that, we have different kinds of candies. We also have cobblers. Cobblers are great. Peach cobbler is the greatest. Let's see here. Pie. Dang, man, there's a... Dude, honestly, man, we put Europe to shame, dude. Like, the European page, you could literally see the whole page when you click on it. The South, it's like 9 million different food things. But
I will say that's one thing the South does have down is the food situation. We actually have the best food at it, really.
Yeah, we have all kinds. So we got alligator meat. Don't diss it. Alligator meat's great. Like, if you haven't had it yet, it's very sweet and also savory a little bit. It's a very good kind of a meat. Highly recommend you try it if you ever come down here. Beef brisket.
A bull roast. Never even heard of that.
I've native to Maryland. Maryland is not the South. Like, I'm just gonna say that. Anything north of Virginia is not Southern. But let's see. Boucherie, a style of barbecue common to the Cajuns, where the pig is eaten snout to tail. Never had that.
No.
But beef brisket, good God, it's the greatest. Brisket of any kind is just very good when cooked right. Let's see here. Pork ribs. Who in the hell's not had a pork rib? I mean, y'all have all got to have had a pork rib, but that's from the South. Pulled pork. Ooh, oh, it's so good. It works on everything. It especially works in sandwiches. Pulled pork with a little bit of barbecue sauce, and also, what is that stuff, Matthew? Chow chow, I think it's called, in a sandwich. Oh, it's so good. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's the pulled pork sandwich. So good. Beaver
You know,
tail
the best pulled pork sandwich is the pulled pork with the barbecue sauce on it, and they put like a huge helping of like coleslaw on top of it. Those are the best.
Yeah, those are really, really good. Coleslaw is kind of okay on its own, but when you put it in a pulled pork sandwich, divine. Boudin, we've had this sausage before. Pretty good, very spicy. It's pretty enjoyable. Chicken and dumplings, great. Chicken fried steak, also very good. Usually comes with some sort of a white gravy. Let's see, I've never had gizzards before, and I've never had chitlins either. Although some people say chitlins are pretty good. The country captain. I never had that one actually either. Crab cakes are pretty good. That's more of like a northerner thing from Maryland, so take that for what you will. Haven't really had a lot of crawfish. Fried chicken. Look, who can't like fried chicken? I mean, it's like international at this point. Fried chicken is great. It's different ways to make it. Let's see here. You got grits. That's just it is what it is.
Squirrel meat. so squirrel meat.
Where?
At the bottom near hot links.
I've never eaten the squirrel. Like that's more of like an Appalachian kind of a thing to eat squirrels, I think. I've never eaten the squirrel here in Alabama. Hot links are pretty decent. I've had one, I think, or two of them. But that's more like a Cajun and a Creole thing. You get that down in Louisiana more so than here. Smithfield ham, that's a pretty decent kind of a ham. And then shrimp and grits, that's great. Let's see here. Raccoon meat. Do we eat anything down here, honestly? Quail. Never had a quail, actually. Never eaten one. Moravian chicken pie.
Why does that sound like something that'd be on Star Trek? Like, have you tried some of the Moravian chicken pie?
You're scared like a Moravian chicken? Or something like that. But pretty much the rest of this, y'all have all had like lobsters and stuff like that.
Lobster, typically only eaten in Florida. Where'd they get that information from?
Like historically, like lobster was kind of more of a southern thing, but it really went all the way from like Virginia to Florida. I don't know why they said it's only in Florida, because it's like we eat lobster here in Alabama. So let's see. Let me see here. Side dish and condiments. Oh, there's that chow chow.
Is that one what's that sandwich they got at the top? Do you see the picture of that sandwich? What is that?
A muffaletta from New Orleans.
A muffaletta? Man, that looks good, whatever that is.
That looks bussin'. Like, also, by the way, I forgot to tell y'all, it's very regional here in the South, like the food varieties. So a lot of the food that y'all just saw, most of it actually comes from, well, not most of it, but a quarter of it comes from Louisiana, which has their own thing. It's called Cajun or Creole, and that comes from the native folks of Louisiana who are actually from France instead of Britain. So while most people here in Alabama are some sort of a variation or an evolution of British mixed with something else, most people in Louisiana are largely Cajun and Creole, especially in the bayou, and they have their own kind of culture and their own kind of varieties of different kinds of foods and things that they do. Very good stuff. It's just that you actually have to travel down there to have some of it. For the most part, you can get it. It's just that it's never as good because it's coming from some sort of a chain restaurant that's like an imitation of Louisiana food, and then it's not as good. So anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that foray into Southern foods, because I'm not going to bore y'all with the whole list because it truly goes on forever, largely. But we have all kinds of foods down here, so if you want to come down here, make sure to try the food everywhere you go. Get a little bit of a variety of it, because it is incredibly good from all over. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, it's time for us to move on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to the next one here. This one goes to Nightmare Before Christmas, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Nightmare Before Christmas, for that support. And he said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and can we get a question? LSA.
And thank you so much for the happy birthday, Nightmare Before Christmas, and we can get one. So what do we got, Matthew?
And the live chat question, it goes to Fintan, who says, is there a chance of a full-scale Ukrainian counteroffensive in the next couple of months?
Technically, it's kind of already going on in Pokrovsk, but if we're talking about a frontline counteroffensive, it really depends on American support and European support combined, but if it continues to come in a decent ebb and flow, they should be able to conduct a frontline counteroffensive at some point this year. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Alan Orchard, who puts in a 20. And big shout out to Alan also for that support. They said, happy birthday, Andrew.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Alan, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. I'm very happy that many people are wishing me a happy birthday. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And we have a super chat from Rob S, who puts in a 20 and says happy birthday, along with Love is Everything, who also puts in a 20 and says happy birthday to the Enforcer and question to the chat.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for the happy birthday wishes as well. Thank you for the kind words and helping this thing rolling, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing rolling. So with that, huge thank you once again. Holy moly!
Damn.
And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, in honor of Rob and Love is Everything super chat, they did ask for a live chat question, and this one is going to go to, let's see here. This one goes to Chris Russell, who says, there have been rumors that Zelenskyy was responsible for the attack on the nuclear power station at Chernobyl. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's a load of bull, really. I think that's being pushed around by Russian bots, because the drone clearly came in and hit this side of the facility on the northern side, which is only a few miles away from Belarus. So I would clearly say that that was 100% coming from a Russian drone flying over or skirting the border of Belarus to try and come in towards Kyiv, and then they deliberately ran into the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The Ukrainians hitting it, highly unlikely. I would doubt it greatly. So with that, I hope that does address that live chat well, and thank y'all for supporting that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, I see people talking about the manatees for some reason. The huge manatees are actually protected down in Florida. I saw someone saying, do y'all eat the manatee? No, we do not eat the manatee. I think it's illegal to actually hurt a manatee in Florida or kill them or anything like that. These things are very docile creatures, and they're protected because I think they're going extinct somewhat. But they're in Florida, and they like to hang out down the waters down there, with the clear water, that is. But yeah, that's a manatee.
I think they're endangered. Let me see.
Yeah, they are.
Let's see. They have paddle-like tails. Let's see. Manatees' main causes of death are human-related, such as habitat destruction and human objects.
Man, there's stupid people that go down there with boats. Like they'll go through the manatee's habitat like at full speed with their boats and like literally wreck right into the manatees. I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just these clowns will go through at full speed and hit a manatee and literally hurt the poor things. It's like, come on. It's like, don't go through their habitat full speed and just smash into them like that.
They're really interesting creatures. They're actually very, very calm, passive, and generally inquisitive and curious about things. So it's like, it's really messed up to try and mess with these things. And not only that, it's a really interesting and enriching part of the natural wildlife of the United States. I believe it's actually a felony to mess with the manatees like that, you know, to deliberately try and harm them or anything along those lines, because they're a protected species of, I think, a significant type.
Yeah, I think it is. Very protected, actually. So no, you won't find anybody eating manatee in a po' boy or anything.
Yeah, you wouldn't see that. Gators, though, gators get eaten by the daily. But manatees, nah, I don't really think I'd want to eat one. I'd assume they're probably pretty fatty, and so the meat wouldn't be of high quality, probably. Maybe, I don't know. But anyways, does it say anything about people trying to eat them? Let's see,
There's
strikes.
ship strikes.
Red tide. Red tide.
Starvation.
Starvation.
Also, they got some problems going through the locks too. Why is manatee trying to go through the lock?
I don't know, but apparently there was a massive die-off of seagrass in the Atlantic along the coast of Florida, and it left the manatees without enough food to eat, so they just started to starve to death.
Damn, man, the manatees have had a rough go.
And the Fish and Wildlife Service began a feeding program by distributing 3,000 pounds of lettuce per day to save the malnourished manatees from starvation.
Lettuce?
Yeah.
They eat salad.
Well, largely, I mean, like, their diet consisted of seagrass and kelps, so I guess lettuce is kind of the closest thing that they could just get to throw in, and, you know, so that way they could eat.
Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know they ate lettuce.
Let's see. I didn't know that they could eat lettuce either. You know, it's like, I feel like their digestive tract wouldn't be too happy with that. But there's a manatee at SeaWorld right there. This one's fat.
Oh,
like,
jeez, at SeaWorld.
Yeah, SeaWorld's a hellhole. But let's see here. Dang, I can't really find anything about people trying to eat a manatee. Let's see. Has anyone ever eaten a manatee? Let's see, before the coming of Europeans to the Americas, manatees were regularly consumed by some, but not all native peoples. But thus proving that to some they were not only edible, but sought after. Well, I want to know what they taste like now. It became illegal in Florida to hunt manatees due to an 1893 Florida state law. So it looks like no one who's ever eaten a manatee is alive anymore. They'd well be past dead at this point, because you haven't been able to hunt manatees for well over 100 or so years. Anyways, moving on from that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Hal Rose, who did that massive $333 donation, a humongous amount of support. And thank you very much, Hal, for that massive support, of course. That is massive and helps keep the channel running. And they said, at Enforcer Matt, happy birthday. And also, it is the Enforcer's birthday. I think they just tagged me to make sure the super chat went to the right place. But thank you very much, Hal, for that support and wishing the Enforcer a happy birthday. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you for the insanely massive support, Hal Rose, and helping this channel to keep on running, and wishing me a happy birthday. 23 years old. Crazy to think that I've made it this far. Many people do not. I am one of the few, unfortunate. I'm just kidding, but still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and thank you for the massive support, Hal Rose, and being an old guard and a channel legend that's been here since pretty much the dawn of time here on this channel. And so a huge thank you to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Tom Xman, who puts in a 20 as well. And big thanks to you, Tom, for the $20 support. And he said, let's super chat. And I said, happy birthday, Enforcer. Happy birthday.
And thank you so much for the support, Tom Xman. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Incredibly kind of you. And so with that, thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Philip Fixes LSA, who puts in the 20 as well. And thank you very much, Philip Fixes, also for that support. He said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and may your 23rd year be filled with well-paved roads. In honor of your day of birth, tell us your favorite uniform in history, and feel free to link it to train somehow. LSA.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And I'll tell you that my favorite uniform in history would be the model 1912 U.S. Army uniform. Let me go get it. It would be this one. Kind of. Well, hang on. Let me see if I can get a better picture here. There's not really a lot of good pictures of this uniform for some reason. A little odd, if you ask me. A little bit mysterious, a little bit odd, but that's kind of it. I thought that was a really good uniform. Like, I like the cut. I like the Mandarin collars. The Marines are the only one that has a Mandarin collar anymore in their dress uniform. I thought it just looked great across the board. It's like, why not everyone have a Mandarin collar? And also, U.S. Spanish-American War uniforms also were pretty cool as well. This one, in particular, this literally just looked like some dude came off the farm and started blasting Spaniards down in Cuba. It's like, that's actually a pretty cool uniform as an army standard. Like, let me see if I can get another picture of it here. A better one, at least. There we go. So, this was the Volunteers uniform, the one that was in that tannish color. That would be Teddy Roosevelt's for the large part uniform. But this is the U.S. Army's regular uniform in the Spanish-American War. Generally pretty neat to me. Like, it's a very unique part in American history. You won't see a uniform like that before or after, but still, I think that the model 1912 uniform, in my opinion, was the best. Like, that would be my favorite. I don't really have a way to tie this into trains, though, but still, thank you once again for the support. I help with this channel to keep on running, and I hope that does address that well. Also, Monster Lab said, the Union had the best uniforms. I'm going to blow everyone's mind. Color standards were not uniform during the Civil War, so sometimes Confederate units wore blue, and sometimes Union units wore gray, like in some rare occasions. Like it's a weird thing. Let me think of it. I believe it was the Louisiana Zouaves that wore blue, if I'm correct. Yeah, see, these are actually forces of the Confederacy right here, the Louisiana Zouaves, if I'm correct. And nevertheless, they wore blue. And I believe the Northern Zouaves wore gray, if I'm correct. Some of them did. But their uniforms are famous, those of the Louisiana Zouaves. And some of you are like, this looks stupid. Why in the world would anyone dress like this? This was actually the standard in France at the time for the infantry uniform of the Zouaves, which were a feared, pretty much elite shock troop unit of the time. So there were a lot of units on the Union and Confederate side that were trying to imitate this look and be like, oh, we're the Navy SEAL ops of our day. And sometimes they were, like, they actually were incredibly good half the time. And then the other half the time, they were just kind of like a standard infantry unit for the large part and had the same morale and everything else about them. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And oh boy, we got tornadoes hitting in Huntsville. It looks like Huntsville got some tornadoes running around. Looks like the storm has reached Huntsville, but it's kind of at a weird angle, so it hasn't hit us yet. It looks like it's going to hit us in about an hour or so, around 1 o'clock. But yeah, it looks like there's some tornadoes up there right now, looking kind of sketchy. And also looks like Mississippi's been hit by tornadoes quite heavily in the last couple of hours. So yikes. But anyways, moving on here to our next super chat. This one goes to Butchie777, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Butchie, for that $20 support. They said, happy birthday, Andrew. And did you have a succulent cake and all the French champagne? LSA, yeah.
Oh, the French. They've always been known for their excellence. There is a French champagne. There is a California champagne inspired by that French excellence. Parmesan.
And my esophagus collapsed in the middle of that, but nevertheless, I do thank you for the support. And the cake was actually pretty good. It was a Publix cake. You can't really go wrong with Publix cakes. They're fairly good for what you get. But beyond that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And of course, it was a great birthday today, and thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Matthew James, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Matthew James, for the support. He said a huge happy birthday to Andrew. And you may have just turned 23, but you've got the wisdom of a 43-year-old. And I've got huge respect to both you and Matt.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words and the support. And thank you for really saying that I got a lot of wisdom. Oh, man. Oh, man, I'm telling you. But nevertheless, I thank you once again. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jose Diaz, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Jose, for that support. He said, happy birthday, Enforcer. We love you and your brother, and we wish the best to you. And you're getting old, and it's time to find a Puerto Rican girlfriend, LOL.
Hey, and I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And the years are passing by, but, you know, it is what it is. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that somewhat well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Danny B, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Danny, for that $20 support. We appreciate that. It's Danny B, Chef Danny here. He said, a happy birthday, Enforcer, and I hope your day was great.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Danny B. And it was a great day. It was actually pretty good. I got some gifts, I got some cards, and I had a little cake. It wasn't a bad birthday overall. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Pat X, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Pat X, for that support. They said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and long live the LSA.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words and the birthday support. And hopefully I will be able to have even more cake after the stream is over. Hopefully the tornado won't sweep it right out of my hands and out the window. But nevertheless, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Joe's RV Home Turtle, who puts in a 20 as well. And thank you very much, Joe's RV, for that $20 support. And he said, happy birthday.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. It is folks like you who help to make this channel possible and keep it running, and I'm massively appreciative of you. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Danny B yet again. He puts in a 20 this time, and thank you very much, Danny, for the second support of the night. He said, good evening, Forces. Chef Danny here, and happy birthday again. And Minnie, if you were, I would cook you a 5-star meal. I just got a bunch of lamb that I'll be cooking tomorrow, and I'll post the pics on the Discord.
Oh, man, that would have been great, Nanny B. I actually have been dying to try some lamb chops or lamb shank, because that used to be a very popular dish, apparently, in the United States before World War II. Did you know that, Matthew? Did you know that?
I did, actually.
I think I've told you that before, maybe. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I did. So the reason why I went out of favor, everyone, just for y'all to know, is because the Army went, well, gee, we want the troops to feel tops. Well, how do we make them feel tops? And then they went, what's the favorite meal in America right now? And someone said, lamb chops? Well, we'll feed them lamb chops every day of the week. So by the end of the war, every single guy who was in the Army, and all the women in the auxiliary corps that also were in the military, were just fed up with lamb chops. I mean, everyone just had them so much often that they were just sick and fed up with them. So at the end of the war, chicken then became the popular, well, after the war, chicken became the popular dish, and that's why everyone knows chicken these days and eats it as kind of like a regular staple. But before that, it was actually lamb chops. So That's a little bit of an interesting tidbit, but I would have loved to have had a land chop. I've never had one before, actually. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that has addressed that well. Thank you for the kind offer. Maybe one day we'll actually try and take you up on that when we're out in Denver ways sometimes. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that, we're now moving on to our next one here, which goes to Jocko, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jocko, for that support. They said, happy birthday, Enforcer, and at 23, your doubles a great job and with the war coverages. And you might want to get a little older before you delve deeply into economics and politics. Stick to what you're good at for now.
I gotta thank you so much for the support, and I would have to say we're gonna have to stick to what we're good at because I'm not really the one wanting to enter the political field, really. It's just not something that's for me. Honestly, over the past 2 days, some of y'all have probably been like, man, it sounds like Enforcer's at his limit. And it's just because even thinking about the political situation on all ends and talking about it just gets me aggravated. Like, and that's largely why I try and avoid it. I'm like, it's just stupid. I'm like, it's just stupid. I don't want to be a part of it, and I'm just going to stay out of it. But we're going to just keep to news coverage and reporting and all that sort of a deal because I really do enjoy it, and I love getting all of y'all the news. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Monsieur Gaston, who puts in a 20 and says, happy birthday, Enforcer.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for the birthday wishes, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. So huge thanks once again, and also really quickly to address someone who may be disconnected with the youngers of this world. Someone said, apparently nobody under 40 years knows how to use a paper and pencil. I don't know where you got that from, because everyone my age can use a paper and pencil, and I'm in my 20s. And then they also said, this one was a kicker, man. I saw an advertisement for the National Archives. They're trying to hire people with the superpower of being able to read cursive. Once again, like, I can't write cursive, and no one can write cursive anymore, but we can read cursive. Like, that's kind of like a little bit of a wild assertion to make. Like, honestly, it's like, that's a little crazy. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to that mom who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, that mom, for that support. And they said, happy birthday, Enforcer. I hope your family called you, and I hope you had a great day.
Hey, and I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And our family did call, and we actually hung out with them a little bit and had the cake and the cards and the presents and everything. It was very nice. It was a very nice day. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Remy Andre Rogsnoy Olsen, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Remy, for that support. And they said, happy 22nd birthday, Andrew, in Crazy World, Mental Days, and LSA all the way, and buy cake. And yes, Marma decrees must buy cake. And Alan,
you know what? We got to do it, because I told everyone Alan the Marmot was on a holiday last night, so we got to do it. Oh, hello, my fine fellows.
There.
Good evening to you all. This is not Alan the Marmot. You need to move down the page. Thank you. Jeff. Oh, hello there.
Hello there. Good evening, good sir. Welcome back. Crazy World, Mental Days, LSA all the way, buy cake, let them eat cake, and finance it with the government fund, yeah.
Aw, man. I noticed the Ukraine grift wasn't working for me anymore, the hot dog man, so I moved entirely on into politics. Aw, man.
How can it be a Ukraine grift when you're literally covering the news, man? Where's the grift? There's a grift implies you're stealing money. How the hell is it a grift to cover news? It makes no sense.
Aw, man. They called me out.
You know, that's what's stupid. Like, you know, I pulled up the definition of the word grift that, like, this guy loves to use all the time. That literally implies you're stealing money. So if viewers come in and donate to our channel because they want to hear the news, and we're covering Ukraine and we cover other topics as well, how the hell can that be interpreted as stealing money? You're not stealing money. People are donating to the channel because they want to hear the news. It's like, what is every like news channel out there that gets advertisements on their channel? They're all grifting as well, like to cover news. I mean, it's just so stupid. It really is dumb.
It really is stupid when he even when that guy even admitted over the years, man, on his Discord multiple times to his people, like, the enforcers really aren't doing anything wrong. All I'm trying to do is run off their supporting viewers that support them with super chats and hopefully bring them over here so I can make their money. I'm like, that's a really like stupid kind of a greedy thing. I was like, that is really messed up because it's like we don't conduct like I think that's just really jacked up. It's like I don't see any other YouTuber out there in the world being like a parasite to the rest of the community, trying to start wars with other YouTubers simply to try and like scoop up their supporters and viewers. Like that's like a really like scammy kind of an existence for a YouTube channel. That's really the only way they grow. And then they don't even grow that way. They end up losing subscribers on top of it. So it's just a lose-lose for them because they don't get anything out of it. Like I don't even get it really when you think about it. When you sit back and think about it like we are right now, Matthew. But nevertheless, I hope that does address that well. And thank you once again for support, and thank you for the birthday wishes as well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ryan Peacock, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Ryan, for that support also. He said, since we are talking about tornadoes, look up the aerial Hurricane Michael map of Panama City, Florida in 2018, and look up the address of 8028 Betty Lewis Drive. No longer lived there. And also collapsed with us in it, the eye.
Thank you for the support. Sadly, I don't think YouTube would really allow me to pull that up because they might consider that to be doxing. I hate to say that because that largely is what they would say that would be if I showed it and then someone put in a complaint. But I do.
Although he doesn't live there anymore, just make that clear. That's an inactive address, but we still can't pull it up. But it's inactive, just to make that clear.
Yeah, but sadly, YouTube's rules are a little bit wonky that way sometimes. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But all the hurricanes that have ever hit Florida have always been a mess. And what's even worse is that they don't even have home insurance down there anymore. So the next time a hurricane comes through and your house gets wiped out, it's just wiped out. So it's a really sad kind of a thing down there at this point. But still, thank you so much once again for support, and I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Danny B once again, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Danny, for that $20 support. He said, Chef Danny again, and oh man, here in Colorado, they're no good barbecue, and I'm originally from North Dallas. And there is good barbecue everywhere, but in my backyard, I have 3 smokers and barbecue grills, and I only use wood and charcoal.
I gotta tell you, barbecue is something you just can't live without. You know, like it's such a good food once you have it. Like wherever you go and it's just not there, you miss it. I hear out on the West Coast there really isn't much barbecue, and if they call it barbecue, it really isn't barbecue. So I guess the same thing kind of like it has to be happening in Colorado because I don't think we ever saw a barbecue joint when we were passing through at all. Barbecue is great in Alabama. That's one thing I gotta say. You're not missing out on barbecue anywhere here in the state. But it's good to hear that you're keeping the barbecue and tradition alive up there in Denver, Colorado. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Michael Smith, who puts in a $15 donation. And thank you very much, Michael, for that $15 support and helping to keep us running. I do not see a comment attached. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support. Without a comment, but the support means a lot and helps us to keep this thing rolling. So a huge thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Epic Trains Canada, who puts in a 15. And thank you very much, Epic Trains, for that support also. They said in Russell, MB, there were 2 railways, CN and CP, and they crossed north of town. And the only consist was grain. So they closed both the lines in 1997 and made the farmers drive south to Binskarth, LOL.
And what town was that again?
It was Russell, MB.
Russell, MB. I guess it's Manitoba? Is that? Yeah, it's Manitoba. No way I got that right because that was just a wild guess. So let's see. Oh yeah, you can see where the railroads used to be by this little path or trail that they made on it right there. You can actually see like the elevated area where the track would have been all the way through here. That's actually wild when you see that kind of a deal. And you can also see the other one over here. So one of these would have been the Canadian Pacific, and one of these would have been the Canadian National. But that is really interesting to hear. Both of them got ripped up. I really hate when that kind of stuff happens because it just really feels like there's a lot that like is gone with that. You know, like the kind of connection that the town had to the outside world is gone in that way. And it's almost like on an island unto itself unless you take the venture down the road. That's kind of how I feel about that sort of a deal. Because we had the same thing actually happen in our hometown down near Montgomery. And the rail depot actually still exists. Like we can actually show it to y'all. It's actually pretty cool. It's right back here. And this was our Louisville and Nashville Railway Depot. This was the freight depot that they used in this town until 1973. And you can actually see where the railroad went. It went right through here, right out of town onto Gotham Switch Road, which is named after the Gotham Switch branch line that Wetumpka had access to. And then that travels all the way out here, and you can still even see the railroad bridge, which is still standing, that would cross this little canal for the large part, the Alabama River Canal, and then make its way to Elmore, where it would connect to the Louisville and Nashville main line, heading down to Montgomery. None of that exists anymore, and it's really such a sad thing, because it was a really neat thing when it did exist. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Octavian Timorsanu, who puts in a 12. And thank you very much to Octavian for that support. He said, and that's about the time she asked away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 23. And happy birthday, Enforcer.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the kind words. We always love to have birthday wishes here when they come around, and we're massively appreciative of that. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Michael Mervahill, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Michael, for the support as well. And also, The Planet is Dying, who put in a 10 also. And they both said, happy birthday, Andrew.
Hey, and thank you so much to both of y'all for the happy birthday wishes. Very nice to hear that so many people continue to wish us, wish me a happy birthday. I want to make it an us thing, but it's really a me thing today. But still, thank you once again for support. And also, Walter A. Lakota said, look up the Hawaiian Railway Society. Let's look at that. Hawaiian Railway Society. No way. No way. Are these narrow gauge? These have to be narrow gauge. I mean, like, they're tiny. And I think narrow gauge is all that ever existed here. But that is actually pretty cool. I did not know that y'all even had a single railway left of any type in Hawaii. Because I heard that they were all for, like, the plantations and stuff that existed there. And, you know, later on, I think in, like, the 60s and stuff, they pretty much all disappeared. But that is really cool. It's just a little fleet of narrow gauge trains that still work. That's incredibly neat. And I thank you for sharing that, Walter Lakota. Really cool to see. And where is that? It's on the main island at Oahu. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Bran Dex, who puts in a 10 and says, LSA, RHN, Rabbit Hole Nation. And can you figure out the method to the current round and roundabout U.S. decisions madness?
And I thank you so much for the support. I'd have to be honest with you, I can't, because I'm just trying to report on it. And if I knew the method to the madness, I'd just be able to cut straight through it and tell y'all what's going on. And sadly, I just can't. Like, I cannot figure out how that's actually working. But I do thank you once again for support, and I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Neil Visanant, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Neil, for the support as well. He said, happy birthday, Enforcer.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the birthday wishes. We try our best to make sure to keep this thing rolling and running, and I'm glad to know that you're very happy to see that I've grown another year older, and the channel's grown another year older with me here today. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Khan LSA, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Khan, for the support as well. He said, I don't want Zelenskyy going anywhere near Saudi Arabia, and I really believe that is a setup to take him out. And Saudi Arabia is famous for eliminating people, even in their own embassies.
And thank you for the support. I'm fairly certain that that would cause a major international incident if they assassinated Zelenskyy in Saudi Arabia, especially the Saudi Arabians. So I have a feeling it's just being used as neutral ground, especially considering that the United States is the one trying to arrange the whole deal. I'm fairly sure that Zelensky's security would be assured if he ever went to Saudi Arabia. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Christian Menard, who puts in a 10. Also, man, that weather is coming our way is looking horrendous, by the way. There's tornadoes all over the place right now. There's one in Tuscaloosa, there's one in Huntsville, there's one in, I think, York. Man, it's about to be bad. But anyways, going on here to our next super chat. This one goes to Christian Menard, who puts in a 10 and says, you guys are appreciated more than you know, and keep up the great work, gentlemen, and take one from the chat. And LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, and we will try and keep up the great work, and thank you so much for the kind words as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, without saying, like, exactly where the guy's at, does that Ryan Hall guy live in Alabama? Because apparently his power just went out, which is kind of weird because it's Alabama getting hit by this stuff right now. So I'm kind of curious about that. I'll be curious to know. But anyways, jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Alejandro Guana, who puts in a 10 and does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Alejandro, for that support, and we appreciate it very much. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support, and thank you for helping this channel to keep it running. You're keeping it running time and time again, and we're massively appreciative of that. And I thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the windows, they're rattling, man. They're rattling up here, man. They're going. I'm like, oh. But anyways, our next one here goes to Tom Exman, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Tom, as well, for the second support. He said, okay, show that rodent at the stream's end. Our marmot with a birthday hat on.
Thank you so much for the support. We actually showed the marmot a little bit earlier. And also, Matthew, how many super chats do we have left?
We have, let's see here, about 22.
I was almost down on the money. I was about to say about 20. But I do thank you for support. But sadly, we're trying to get through the super chats quick enough that we're not having to run from the tornado live on air for all of y'all. So with that, I thank you once again for support. I hope that it's addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Halligan218, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much as well, Halligan, for the support. They said, happy birthday, and go to the New York Transit Museum. It is in the old Court Street Station. You would love it. And also, the LIRR isn't that bad, except on St. Patrick's Day, you hear bottles rolling on the floors.
And interesting, also, this is a really neat museum showing the old subways of times gone by. This is the one from Seinfeld, like legitimately same seats and everything. Like that is crazy, dude. Like that is crazy. But still, thank you so much for support and sharing that with us. And we will have to look into this a little bit more because that's actually crazy, dude. That was legitimately like the Seinfeld subway. But with that, thank you so much once again. And I will look into that a little bit more. It's actually over there in Brooklyn. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Moity Movies, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Moity, for that support. And they said, happy birthday.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the birthday wishes as well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Sergeant Sagi, who puts in a 9. And they said, please buy a nice hot dog cake.
And thank you so much for the support. And we will get a hot dog cake. Hopefully it doesn't taste like hot dog. But with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Thomas Kruger, who puts in a 7. And thank you very much, Thomas, for the support as well. They said, happy birthday, Enforcer.
And thank you so much, Kruger, for the kind words and the happy birthday wishes. We're always appreciative of them. Always appreciative. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we also have a 7 from Jay. And it's nice. Not Jay Bagwell. It is Jay. And they put in a 7. And they said, why don't you guys have YouTube membership options for support? And happy birthday and love from Canada.
I think it looks tacky. And also, it kind of like badges y'all to give us money. And I don't like that. Like, if y'all want to give us money, I'm all for that. Like, thank you so much. But I don't want to, like, pester y'all and, or, like, badger y'all about that. And YouTube kind of sets it up to where if you have memberships on, like, the YouTube system just does that. So that's kind of why we don't do that. And also, it kind of, like, stratifies the live chat. It almost creates, like, a class system where, like, the top donors, you know, like, the... I don't know, like, the lords of the LSA would be, like, clearly visible, and they kind of be... Not really. I don't think any of those people would do that, but, you know, there's a possibility that some people in the future could possibly do something like that. Shift around their weight to try and, you know, make people feel like they can't really talk back to them or disagree with them or something like that. So we generally want to avoid all that kind of stuff. That's why we really don't have it. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Born in Ukraine, who puts in a 5 and says, happy birthday, Andrew. Wishing you health and prosperity. Stay awesome. LLT, LSA, Slava Ukraine.
Hey, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. And thank you so much for your support. Help this channel to keep on running. It's folks like you who helped make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one is going to go to Havlin Tuff, who puts in that 5. And thank you very much, Havlin, for that support. They said, happy birthday, 23 years. Wow, time does fly.
And it really does fly. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes. And hopefully it continues to fly with all of y'all. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Also, Matthew, I wouldn't even worry about it. People are always hating on everyone for nothing these days. Like, you know, say you bring up someone's name and they could quite literally be angelic. Not saying that that guy's angelic. You know, he's decent though. But you know, the person could be next to perfect and people would still bash him for nothing. But anyways,
I'm not sure why people are bashing the guy. Like, I don't know anything about the guy personally, but I know his weather coverage is pretty good. Like honestly, his weather coverage, I would say, I'm not trying to like toot our own horn here, but he's like, oh, the weather segment, he's like us for the war segment. And once again, not trying to sound arrogant or something, but that's my own personal assessment. You can disagree with it. You might not think we're as good in our segment, but I would say for the weather segment, he's probably like the same as we are in the Ukraine war segment.
Yeah, I would largely say he's pretty good at what he does. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, LSA Sergeant Figment, for the support. And they said, LSA, smash the like button for the birthday boy, and jugga jugga. That's an order. And Yam Hu, let it sa maakt.
And thank you so much for the support, LSA Sergeant Fame. And please, everyone, hit the like button. Hit it. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because it's folks like you who helped to make this thing possible. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Jack Ragnarsson. And they said, happy birthday, Enforcer. And also, do you see a World War III scenario as inevitable at this point? And also, do you see the U.S. doing the right thing and staying in NATO? And also, can we get a marmot roasting hot dog man?
Oh, and we already got that. But nevertheless, thank you for the support. And I would have to say, I think World War III is still avoidable. It takes a very kind of a careful managing to do that. And I honestly don't really think there will be any kind of careful managing. I just think any U.S. administration at this point is largely incapable of that. So we're probably on the path to World War III. As far as the United States staying in NATO, I would hope so. I would hope that that Europe would also stay in NATO as well, because that would be the best case scenario for that kind of an event. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh, let's see here. The winds are getting bad. Like here, I just saw a warning get issued. It said the severe winds or something like that hitting Jefferson County right now. Let's see, severe thunderstorm warning and also tornado watch. Let's see here. The windows are rattling like hell up here in the front. Like they're going at it. But anyways, jumping at this next one here. This one goes to Pat X, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Pat X, for that support. Also, You're Taking My Life said Birmingham's now under a considerable warning right now. I would say, I can confirm. I hear it. But Pat put in a 5. It says, if you're near San Francisco, across the water in East Bay, it's one of the coolest mini railcar museums, the Golden State Model Railroad Museum.
And thank you so much for the support and sharing that. We will try and look at that, hopefully in the future. It's just that, sadly, I don't think we'll be able to look at that right now because it sounds like things are getting worse weather-wise, and I wanted to make sure to address everyone's super chats and a couple of live chats before we have to hurry up and get off air and figure out what we're about to have to do. And so with that, thank you once again for support. Hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Suzanne B, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much, Suzanne, for the support. They said, happy birthday, old man. And may your life always be filled with plenty of spam and cheese sandwiches.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and the kind wishes. That's very kind of you. The kindest thing I've heard all night. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Octavian Timarasanu, who puts in a 5 and says drones are cool but scary. And imagine if if this really unsavory fellow had drones as well. How concerned are you that some people will use these drones for nefarious purposes?
Any kind of weapon systems are always used for nefarious purposes. I generally say that I wouldn't be too concerned. We just have to hopefully be able to react to it properly. But beyond that, I do thank you for the support and help with this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Laser314, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Laser, for the support. And they said, happy birthday to you, Enforcer.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. We always love to see them. We always love to hear them, and I thank you so much for that, because it's another year gone and another year that it has experience gained. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Wyatt Logan, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Wyatt. Wyatt says, I just want to say hi, Enforcers, and to LLC, and show support for the best streamers on YouTube, and how much money raised, and that's a lot of lives reached.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the kind words, East Malibu, and thank you so much for the massive support. We've actually raised, I believe, about $1.5 million in support of nonprofits operating in Ukraine and around the world, which is a very cool thing, really neat to think about, actually. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Craig Savaris, who puts in a 5. And they said, regarding the rare earth minerals, aren't the vast majority of untapped resources currently located in the Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine?
And yes, that's largely true. They're largely within those unoccupied areas. So with that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, I'd like to point out this one person in the chat. Look at this goofball. It said, MF is acting like you were going to stream the storm. Now change the plans. Well, because tornadoes are bearing down on us. So, like, no offense.
I was largely joking earlier. Like, I wasn't talking about actually filming the tornado hitting us. I was, like, actually going to go jump in a bathtub or something.
Yeah, and I mean, like, no offense to you, but I'm not dying for your entertainment. I don't even know you. Like, that's the first time I ever seen you in the live chat. So, like, with that, we are on to the next one.
Bro thinks he's on the Gladiator circuits or something like that. We're not going to be having, like, entertainment out here like that. But anyways.
Man thinks he's damn Emperor Vespasian out here going, oh, I want them to die for my entertainment. Thumb down. You know, get some gladiator. It's like, this isn't that kind of a show, man. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Darren Quinn, who puts in a 5 and says, happy birthday, and train set with the fried green tomato.
Hey, Hey, thank you so much for the support, and I cannot wait to have another helping of fried green tomatoes. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one also goes to Darren Quinn, who puts in a 5 and says, is China's attack on Taiwan going to affect the Filipinas and in turn Asia, Australia's neighbor, into war, and have Filipina fiance, and I'm concerned, and get in the damn bunker?
I don't really think it'll affect the Filipinos or Filipinas a lot inside the Philippines. If anything happens with Taiwan, that would largely be contained in between China, Taiwan, and the United States, depending on if we got involved. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ambi Pambi, who puts in a 3 and says, happy birthday, Enforcer.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the happy birthday wishes. Very happy to have a happy birthday indeed. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. Also, Rob S. Do you have a basement to go to? No basement. Just straight up concrete on the floor. That's about it. No basement either. And also, I'll be perfectly honest. The current place we're in, not to get too detailed here with that, which we're not, is not exactly what I would call a brick house. To say the least. But anyways, the bathtub will have to suffice. I'm not sure the bathtub is made of metal anymore because these new building materials. Yeah, the new building materials are not exactly what you'd call old school building materials. It's mainly cheap because that's the way corporations build these days. It's extremely cheap. But the next one here goes to Rose Silver, who puts in a 3. And thank you very much, Rose Silver, for that support. And also, huge shout out to Mark Andre Burnett, who did a 2 as well. And we appreciate the both of you. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank the both of you once again for the support. She didn't throw in comments, but the support meant a lot and helps us to keep this channel running. And so that, thank you once again. And we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Dapper Dragon, who puts in a 2 and says, Iran is about to hear firsthand what an A-10 sounds like.
Oh, man, they might. Oh, man, I'm telling you, they're going to get no respect around here. Oh, man.
But nevertheless, thank you once again for the support. I hope that addressed that well. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Jason Curling, Nightmare Before Christmas, Can Buy 7X, and also Plazaf for each putting in a $2 and $1 donation. And thank you all very much for that support and helping to keep the channel running. And that's going to round out our super chat segment. So, Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank everyone so much once again for supporting this channel tonight and helping it to keep on running. And thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. I'm massively appreciative and thankful, but I hope you all understand we're trying to cut down the stream a little bit because I think we're going to have to try and evacuate. So with that, we are going to be answering 3 live chat questions, Morse code decoders, and rounding out the stream. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our Morse code decoders tonight were Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, her Royal Fluffiness, Arabelle Garbo, Joni Dog, and Norm Pritchett. And they said, the Morse code says, Russia is acting like they are strong and nearly losing the whole Perokrovsk battle on the same day in LLT, LSA.
And that's the sound of money. Y'all got that 10 on the nail. And an amazing thing to see. 1,088 days of war, and y'all gotten that correct for 1,088 days. Crazy stuff. And I got to congratulate y'all for that once again. And so with that, it's time for us to move on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one is going to go to, let's see here. This one goes to Vitali, who says, is it possible that they are just dividing a World War III into sectors, like USA versus China, EU versus Russia, Israel, and Iran and North Korea versus South?
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure on that, but possibly. There's a slight chance. And so with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Happy Dragon, who says, if the rare earth minerals are in occupied territory, do you think the U.S. is saying, give us 50%, or we're going to make that deal with Russia and pull all help from Ukraine?
No, I don't think that's what they're saying, at least at this point. But who's to say that that wouldn't be the offer tomorrow? You just never really know these days. It's a fairly uncertain time. But with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person that threw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and let's see by saying, go somewhere safe. I'll be honest with you, where I'm sitting right now in front of the window is probably
the most
safe
unsafe.
As
Yes.
No, actually, it's probably as safe as the rest of it, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's just the way these new constructions are built. In fact, let me tell y'all something. They should really tell people or tell companies that want to build these new housing places very cheap like that. Probably shouldn't build them that cheap because, for example, if a tornado or strong winds come through, Probably not the best for protection. I'm not sure if that's their goal, is to protect the people living in the places they're building or not anymore. But should probably build it with some strong materials and put some metal bathtubs, or at least ceramic ones, in there. So that way, if they have to go run for cover, they're not hopeless, because, you know, there's no built-in tornado shelter. The thing is made of wood and is very thin, and it's basically like a paper house, basically. That's new construction these days, 101, and they charge top dollar for it too, so that's beautiful. But anyways, with that, we're now jumping on to our last... Is this the last question of the night?
Yes, Matthew, but you have to understand, Matthew, they don't care if we live or die. It only matters if the shareholders are happy, Matthew.
Oh, yes,
it only matters. The shareholders, damn it, give me that last question.
Well, let's get that last question, and this one is going to go to Richard Rohde, who says, a big question for the European army is who leads it, and NATO military operations are always led by a U.S. general, and also would the UK be a part of the EU military?
They would most likely be part of a European military alliance for sure, but I have a feeling that the de facto leader would be the French.
The French. They've always been known for their military excellence. There was once a German military inspired by that French excellence. Parmesan. but nevertheless, they most likely would end up becoming the de facto leaders, the French would be, because they just seem to be the ones trying to lead the charge for that at this point. But with that, I hope that has addressed that well. And we have reached the end of tonight's stream. Unfortunately enough, have to end it as quickly as possible tonight, because we have to figure out what we're about to be doing when the NATOs hit. And they're going to be hitting soon, damn it. So y'all might not see us alive tomorrow. Because the house we're in, it's made of nothing but wood. I mean, like, shit, they cut down the cost as much as possible, and I'll be damned, we got neighbors on both ends of us, and their ass is going with us if the tornado comes through. Like, we're all going to be sitting on top of each other with spikes going through us, because the house is going to turn into shrapnel made of timbers. So nevertheless, I thank you all once again for watching tonight. It's been an honor and a pleasure getting to celebrate my birthday with y'all at you. And I got to thank you all once again for watching this thing and really enjoying it. If you do enjoy this thing, you really liked it, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Makes me happy, makes us all happy, makes the world go round. Maybe you'll get annoyed by me tomorrow, maybe. But nevertheless, I thank you all once again for watching. And we will see you all tomorrow to run the next stream in the next 24 hours, that news up here in the war around the world, really, at this point. And also, by the way, I don't know what fundraiser we're running tomorrow yet, but it is a Sunday night fundraiser. If our house gets blown away, it's going to be a fundraiser for little old me. If it, I'm just kidding. But if the house ain't blown away, it's going to be a normal fundraiser. So, all right, everyone. Well, I guess that reckons it. Y'all take care, be safe, and good night to all of y'all. Long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die.
And thank you all once again for another great stream tonight. And once again, be sure to join us tomorrow for the Sunday night fundraiser stream, if we still have a house to stream from, that is. But if we have a house to stream from, we'll be raising yet even more money for those in Ukraine to make sure that even though other people may be talking about maybe, you know, turning a blind eye to them, we're going to make sure that they're taken care of here in the LSA. And we've done so for literally years at this point, along with everybody in the LSA making it possible. So be sure to join us again tomorrow. And of course, also, by the way, I see people saying, let us know if you're safe. I'll probably post something on Twitter to let y'all know that we're all right, because, you know, it looks sketchy. So if we're not all right, we'll let you know that as well. But anyways, with that, folks, thank you all for watching, and to all 63,000 people that joined us tonight. And with that, we'll see you all tomorrow. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Heroes Slava. And with that, good night.